The oil spill by BP has left eyeballs all over the sea. So don't go swimming down in the south unless you want tar balls in your mouth. Balls in your mouth, balls in your mouth. Don't swim in the ocean, you'll get balls in your mouth. Balls in your mouth, balls in your mouth. Don't swim in the ocean, you'll get balls in your mouth. Balls in your mouth, balls in your mouth. Don't swim in the ocean, you'll get balls in your mouth. Balls in your mouth, balls in your mouth. Swim in the ocean, you'll have balls in your mouth. Go ahead! Balls in your mouth, balls in your mouth. Don't swim in the ocean, you'll get balls in your mouth. Balls in your mouth, balls in your mouth. Don't swim in the ocean, you'll get balls in your mouth. Balls in your mouth, balls in your mouth. Don't swim in the ocean, you'll get balls in your mouth. Balls in your mouth, balls in your mouth. Don't swim in the ocean, you'll get balls in your mouth. Balls in your mouth. Don't swim in the ocean, you'll get balls in your mouth. Balls in your mouth, balls in your mouth. Don't swim in the ocean, you'll get balls in your What would you do if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song. I will try not to sing out of key. Oh, baby, all I need is my brother. I say I'm gonna get that.
What's up, Boochcast fans, listeners across the internet, radio waves? This is Vinny Bucci, aka the Booch, and this is that time again, once again, yet again for the Boochcast. What's up, everybody? It is Thursday, August 11th, 2016. It is high noon on Throwback Thursday. That's right. That special day of the week where you dig through the old photo albums, pop in the old home movies, and we take a special look back at yesteryear. And as you can tell from the title of today's show, it's called I Still Look Back with Wonder. And obviously, if you don't know what that means, it is a significant quote in the Wonder Years, which means a little later on in the show today, we will be discussing the Wonder Years. Today, we're going to recap the 6th and final season of the Wonder Years. That's what we're going to be doing today here on the show. And the best part is, once I'm done talking about it today, you won't have to hear me talk about it anymore. But I definitely want to get through that as part of my Netflix throwback edition of the Boochcast. We've had a lot of moments where I had to finish season 5 and go through it. But today we're going to get to season 6. We're going to talk a little bit about it as part of my Netflix throwback segment here on the Boochcast. And as you know, this is solely based on me, getting into the Netflix spirit of binge watching shows. And basically, The show that I'm currently on now is, of course, The Magic School Bus. I've talked about that before. I am now 3 seasons down. I'm on the last season. However, I have not started watching the 4th season yet. I have not gotten to it yet. I've had so much going on that I've not really had time to actually watch The Magic School Bus because I've had so much work to do. In the meantime, in between time, getting a lot of things ready, I have not had time to really to watch The Magic School Bus. But I am on the 4th and final season. There's 13 episodes, so hopefully I'll get an opportunity to work on those episodes, take care of those episodes, and ultimately, get a chance to recap them. Of course, like I said, I am 3 seasons down, so probably not next week, but in the Thursdays to come, at some point, I will start talking about the Magic School Bus here on the Boochcast. Now that like I said, I'm 3 seasons down, 1 more to go. Once I get that done, I'll be done with the Magic School Bus, and then I'll get to move on to the next show. I don't know exactly what it is because I don't have the Netflix shows in front of me yet, but since we're not even done with the Wonder Years yet, I'll wait until the moment comes where I can talk about that. And of course, for anybody new to the Boochcast, I always love to remind people of this. This whole thing started when my friend Elvis got a Netflix profile. He got on Netflix and he gave me a profile on his Netflix account. And over time, I used to stay at Elvis's house. He had a nice little bachelor pad, and sometimes we would stay there and we watch Netflix all the time. And while I was watching Netflix one time, I think I was basically still at Elvis's house. He had just gone to work, so I was pretty much chilling at the house by myself. And I thought I'd watch a Netflix movie just to kind of wake myself up because I was still kind of hungover because we had partied the night before. So let me kind of wake up without having to take a shower. So I basically watched the movie. I saw the movie Nell because it's a great movie with Jodie Foster and Liam Neeson, and I think Natasha Richardson is in it. Yeah, her. Which I was shocked to find out that Natasha Richardson and Liam Neeson were actually married in real life. That gives you an idea of how well I follow certain celebrity relationships. If it's not in the public eye constantly, I don't know about it. But yeah, so, and then I found out while looking through Netflix that my entire childhood is pretty much on Netflix. All these shows that I grew up watching as a kid were on there. Not only that, but they have a lot of great new shows too, like F is for Family, Fuller House, Daredevil. That's just an example of some of the more recent TV shows that I have in fact been watching. And one thing I do want to say is that I'm definitely enjoying Netflix. And when I saw all these great shows popping up, classics, I decided I'm going to watch these. But when I started getting a Netflix edition, I was, I started with the Cleveland show, and I literally was on a couch for an entire week watching the Cleveland show. I never left the couch. In fact, there was only 2 moments in time that made me stop the binge watching, and that was doing the Boochcast and going to bed. That was it. Other than that, I was right in front of the TV watching all 4 seasons of the Cleveland show. And I realized this is unhealthy and unproductive. So how do I control this? So I decided that while I do post-production work on the Boochcast, I would watch the Netflix shows. So I'm pretty much stuck in the studio while I'm doing it all anyway. So why not kill some time and binge watch? And that's what I started doing with all these shows. And then I decided, you know what? Let me talk about these. And I picked Thursday to do it because A, it's Throwback Thursday, so it would make more sense. And B, most of the time I'm recapping Lucha Underground NXT, and both shows are like 45 minutes to an hour long. So there's not a whole lot of so even if I did recap all those shows, it would not leave me with a whole lot. What else would I, once I finish recapping those shows, what would I do for the remainder of the show? So I thought, let me throw some Netflix in there. And that is definitely what It has definitely worked out great for me. It's been very helpful in, keeping me organized. And what I love most about doing this segment too is that I get to see, when I watch these shows again, a lot of them that I grew up watching as a kid, I get to see them through adult eyes. That to me is what truly makes this great, is the fact that I get to see, the show through adult eyes, and it lets me look at the shows differently in a way that I had never seen them before. Because when you're a kid, there's certain jokes you miss, innuendos you miss. There's certain lessons the show teaches that you don't really know what the fuck they're talking about. But as an adult, you can look back and go, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And that's what I've enjoyed about all the shows that I've been watching. So we're definitely going to talk about the Wonder Years today here on the Boochcast. And I realize right now, even though on YouTube you can see me wearing headphones, these headphones are more for the computer, but I do need specific headphones for this cell phone. So before I get into the Cruiserweight Classic, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take a very quick break. And when I come back, I'm going to talk about the Cruiserweight Classic here on the Boochcast. So we'll get into the Cruiserweight Classic, NXT, and of course, Season 6 of the Wonder Years. So you guys just sit tight, and I'll be back in a jiff.
Come on, Derek. Thank you, sir. Mama said, yeah, hurry up. No, you just have to wait. The love don't come easy. It's taking love to take. You can't hurry up. No, you just have to wait. You got to trust. Give it time, no matter how long, how many heartaches. It's like that. How I find a love. So let me live again. Right now, the only thing that keeps me hanging on, when I feel my strength. Yeah, it's almost gone, but I remember Mama said, yeah, love, we just have to wait. The love don't come easy. It's a game of give and take. How long must I wait? How much more must I take? People loneliness for cause. Not to break. No, I can't bear it. Live my life alone. I grow impatient for a love to call my own. But when I feel alive, I can't go on. These precious words keep me hanging on. I remember Mama said, oh, you just have to wait. The love don't come easy. It's a game of give and take. You can't love it. No, you just have to wait. Let you trust. Give it time, no matter how long it takes. Hey, wait. Keep on waiting. It's a fading. Sure, that's off. Tender arms. Hold me tight. Keep on waiting. Keep on waiting. It ain't easy. My mama said, can't hurt it, girl. Yo, you just have to wait. Just to trust and give it time. How long it takes. So you just have to wait. Don't come easy. People give and take. You can't hurry it up. You can't hurry it up. Come easy. Give and take. That's right. That's your shoe, Mom. Hurry up.
Hello, And welcome back to the Boochcast. And as you can see, as I'm about to do this real quick, boom, there we go. The trademark plug-in. And I got the better headphones on now, so I'll be able to do this show properly. But I also wanted to properly start on time. That's why I had to play that song real quick to go grab my headphones and take care of business. And during that little break, you'll notice I played the song Can't Hurry Love, which was done. It's obviously an original, but it's a cover done by Derek Shapiro and Chucky Seymour, who has no lips and no teeth. Yes, that is Derek Shapiro's alter ego. And they did the little song Can't Hurry Love. And Chucky Seymour is, of course, a major character done by Derek Shapiro. The best way I can describe it is Chucky Seymour and Derek Shapiro have an interesting relationship. Chucky is the Pee Wee Herman to Derek's Paul Rubens. He is the Ernest P. Worrell to his Jim Varney. May he rest in peace. And, you know, Derek loves to do a lot with Chucky Seymour. And he started him off with No Lips, No Teeth. He wants to do an internet TV series with Chucky Seymour. He wants to build more with him. But in terms of the No Lips, No Teeth franchise, this is the final movie. And it's No Lips, No Teeth Part 3. It is available on movieinternetchannel.yellowsite.com, as well as the Movie Internet Channel YouTube channel. So you can find it on YouTube for all the YouTube viewers out there. And it's also on the Boochcast Facebook page. It's the easiest place to find it. Go to facebook.com/theboochcast, TheBoochcast. Click the like button. That way you can get all updates on the Boochcast, and you can check out, scroll down. The movie will be right there. I have it posted for everyone to check out. And make sure you show your support. Also, Derek Shapiro, from what he told me, should be in the studio on Monday. So that means Derek Shapiro could end up sitting right next to me. And we're going to get into a lot of great discussions, a lot of wrestling talk. We'll probably do the New Day Rocks chant since he loves the New Day. I'm sure he'll want to watch Monday Night Raw tonight, but I got to let him know, dude, unfortunately, I have to work at the Big Orange Box on Monday night. So basically, he can come in the studio, we can talk for a bit, then I'll go to work. When I get done work, he's more than welcome to come back here, and we'll probably watch Monday Night Raw together. So, and then if Derek can be in tomorrow and wants to recap Raw with me, he's more than welcome to do so. Because Derek has been a longtime friend of this show. So anytime he's in town, I love to get him in the studio and just chat it up and have a good time. And that's what Derek and I always do. And you guys know that when Booch and Shap get together, anything crazy can happen. So make sure you tune in Monday to the Boochcast when Derek Shapiro will be on the air with me. And, of course, because it's Monday, if Gator comes back, we'll definitely let Gator Ricky Ross get his time to tell his stories. And I'll make sure Derek doesn't interrupt Gator because Derek has a tendency to do that to people. So I'll make sure he gives Gator the proper respect while he's on the air, give him his airtime. And then once Gator leaves the show, it'll be just me and Derek back to the races. So definitely check that out. Also, I'm excited to announce, while I'm on the subject of talking about guests, I did send an email to a comedian friend of mine, Eddie Ift. You can check that out right there. That's Eddie Ift, live from Australia, his album. You can find it on his website, eddyift.com. Make sure you go there, check it out, download the album, buy the album if you can. If you want to get a fresh copy like this one, you can come see him next week at the Laughing Skull Lounge. That's right. From the 18th to the 21st, he will be present at the Laughing Skull Lounge in Midtown Atlanta. Make sure you go down there, check it out. It's going to be one hell of a great show. And not only that, Eddie Ift is going to be a guest on the Boochcast. Now, he's not going to be a live in-studio guest. I'm going to be taping this interview at the Laughing Skull, and I will air it at a later date, depending on when I record it. Now, if I'm able to record it next Thursday night, then after the show, when I get home, I will be up all night. I will edit this, I will put it together, and I will put it on the internet for you guys Friday on the Booch. If I tape it on Thursday, it'll air on Friday the 19th. If I end up taping it on Friday or Saturday, then it will probably air Wednesday the 24th. Yes, it will air either, maybe, I don't know. It'll either be Wednesday the 24th or Thursday the 25th. One of those 2 days is when that episode will air. Because it's not going to be the 26th, because I already got something planned for the 26th. My goal for the 26th is to get Atlanta comedian Josh Harris on the show. Now, all my Boochcast fans and listeners, y'all know Josh Harris. We had him on as a guest briefly a couple years ago when it was about a 10-minute segment, and he was promoting it. He was raising money for his studio album. Well, Josh Harris is having a going away party on the 27th at the Relapse Theater. And the reason I have a going away party is because in September, he is going to be moving to Los Angeles, California. So he wants to have a farewell show on the 27th. And my goal is to get Josh Harris on the Boochcast. Now, that's not going to be an in-studio interview either, because Josh's schedule is way too out of whack to get him in studio. So my goal is to hopefully go to Tavern on the Main this Saturday, where he's going to be performing and headlining, and hopefully get Josh on the Boochcast. I sent him a Facebook message. I'm still waiting to hear back from him. I may give him a call later today, or I may call him tomorrow, but I definitely want to set up a time to meet with him and do the Boochcast. So Josh Harris will be a future guest, or hopefully will be a future guest on the Boochcast as well. And I still need to schedule a time with Tim Andrews to see if he'll be a guest as well. So I got a lot of guests coming up. So far, the only one that is definitely guaranteed is Eddie Ifft. You can expect comedian Eddie Ifft. He's also the host of the popular podcast Talking Shit. He's going to be on the Boochcast. He'll be a guest. So, like I said, depends on when I get to record it. If I record it next Thursday, then it will air next Friday on the Boochcast. If I end up recording it Friday or Saturday, then it will air either Wednesday or Thursday of next week. It's not going to air Monday because I'm going to be recapping SummerSlam, and I'm hopefully going to have a special guest, co-host, a man who wants to be a co-host for the show, and I got a chance to get in touch with him. I'll see if he's coming in, but we got from the VOC Nation. If I can pull this up for a minute, my computer's kind of being a little bit annoying. Let me try this here. Yes, here he is. His name is Jordan Garber. He works at angrymarks.com, pro wrestling news and shows. He does a lot of wrestling talk, wrestling interviews, avid wrestling fan. Found out about my podcast and wants to come join the Boochcast. He wants to come join the wrestling world. The Boochcast is getting a lot of traction, and Jordan is also getting a lot of traction because he did a historic interview with Santino Marella that has gone viral. It's on multiple different sites. In fact, SE Scoops, which is my main place to go for wrestling news, to check out everything so that I can present it to you all here on the show. His interview popped up there. I gave it a listen. It was very well done. There's a couple of things I didn't like, and I told him about that, and he appreciated the feedback. And that's what I liked about Jordan right off the bat. He's a man who can take constructive criticism, which is key. And, I told him what I was looking for and let him know that he's interested. And if he's interested, or if he's able, he is interested. He reached out to me. But hopefully he'll be available to be on the show. And I want to give him a shot to see if he will be a good co-host. We'll see if we have good chemistry. We'll see how well we gel together. And I wanted to book it for the 22nd. Then on the 15th, Gator's going to be, doing his hospital stories. I'm going to have Derek Shapiro in the studio. So to have Jordan debut or come in on the 15th would not be fair to him because I doubt he would get any airtime. Like I said, I got to be fair to Gator because he's my he's my traditional Monday co-host, and Derek just loves to flap his gums. So, but on Monday, the 15th, that's when Gator's going to be telling stories and Derek's going to be here. So the 22nd is the best time because SummerSlam's the biggest show of the year. So I know Jordan will have a lot to say about that, and I'll get a chance to see what he's got. And then if after the show, Jordan decides that he wants to do more shows, then we'll sit down and talk more about his availability and when he can come and when he can appear and what he can do. And it's all going to depend solely on whether or not, he A, does a good job, and B, whether he wants to continue moving forward. So we'll see. I'm definitely looking forward to that. So we got a possible guest co-host in Jordan Garber. So, and I like this. I'm getting back into the habit of getting guests on the show. In fact, yesterday I've been generating questions for future interviews. And that's all I was doing yesterday after the Boochcast. Because I haven't had really like guests on the show in a while. It's mostly just been me. I want to get back into the habit of interviewing and getting guests and bringing them on the show and really having fun like I used to with the Boochcast. Not that I haven't been having fun before, but I need to sharpen up the interview skills, especially if I ever get back into terrestrial radio again. I'd love to do that. And I got a couple more interviews coming up in the works as well. So I'll let you guys know if and when they're going to happen. But I got about 2 more interviews that I'm thinking about, but I'm not going to bring them up right now. I've already said too much. But we'll just figure everything out. All I know is I got Eddie Ift guaranteed. So now my focus is on Josh Harris. And then I'll focus on the other interviews that I got to book as well. One now I'm focusing on Josh Harris. Then I'm going to get on Tim Andrews. Then I'm going to get the other 2 surprises that I'm thinking about. All right. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I know you out there going, Booch, let's get to the wrestling. All right. We'll get to the wrestling. We've got the WWE Cruiserweight Classic aired yesterday. Now, this is the start of what they like to call the Sweet 16. We are now in the semifinals of the tournament. We already had the 32-man tournament. All the people that have been involved have been eliminated. So now we are now in the semifinals. This is where all the badasses are about to meet. These were all the repeat matches are going to happen. And we kick off the show with Gran Metalik from Mexico going one-on-one against Tajiri from Japan. Now, and of course, Tajiri is definitely the fan favorite going into this match because even though some people may or may not know who Gran Metalik is, everyone in that building should know who Tajiri is. If you don't know who Tajiri is, you're too young to be a wrestler. You're too young to wrestle. You're too young for this show. Come back later. You should know who Tajiri is. I understand there's people out there who don't know who Gran Metalik is. Hell, I didn't even know who Gran Metalik is. But everyone listen to this show. If you're a true fan of professional wrestling, if you're a true fan of the WWE and its history, you know who Tajiri is. He wasn't a world champion, but he was definitely a major player who helped sell tickets. And as Al Snow once said, you serve 2 purposes in the wrestling business. You're either the guy who sells tickets or you're the guy who helps sells tickets. So anyway, we get to this match, and this match was the purest form of wrestling I've ever seen. That's the best I can describe this particular match right here. It was the ultimate match of pure wrestling. Like everything, these guys were doing some of the best chain wrestling I ever seen. Like the kind of shit you learn in a wrestling school. Like they were doing it and they did it flawlessly. Headlocks, waist locks, takedowns, trips, running the ropes, everything, crisscrossing. These guys did it all. And then, of course, Metalik applies a Fujiwara armbar. Tajiri then gets Metalik in a grounded octopus submission hold. Tajiri with a rolling crucifix for a 2 count. These guys were amazing. Tajiri hitting a series of knife-edge chops to Metalik, who then ducks a clothesline from Tajiri. These guys, and then, of course, they got into the high spots. Tajiri gets Metalik with a head scissors submission hold with a bridge, which, that hurts. But Metalik gets his foot on the bottom rope, so Tajiri's forced to break it. Metalik then drops Tajiri with a somersault plancha. But before that, he had a springboard dropkick, which sent Tajiri to the outside. And that's what's great about the Cruiserweight Classic. Sometimes they'll go from one high spot to the next high spot to the next to the next to the next. It truly shows the athleticism of the Cruiserweight division and why they're going to be a great addition to the Raw roster. And, of course, and then, of course, Metallic is a dragon screw leg whip to Tajiri. And then the whole thing ends with Tajiri gets Metallic trapped in the octopus stretch. He goes for the buzzsaw kick. Metallic counters with the Metallic screwdriver. 1, 2, 3. Grand Metallic wins the match. And I'm going to be honest. I did not expect Grand Metallic to win this match. I really didn't. I did not expect Grand Metallic to win. I literally thought that Tajiri would win this just because he's a WWE alumni. So I don't know exactly what this is going to mean. That's what I'm wondering. Is Tajiri just here for the Cruiserweight Classic, or are they seriously considering signing him back to WWE and making him a part of this Cruiserweight division, this Cruiserweight Classic, of which we're going to see? It's going to be intriguing. I don't know exactly how this is going to go. We're going to find out, most definitely. But I was very shocked to see Grand Metallic get the win. I'm glad to see Grand Metallic get the win. And I think with a victory like that, Grand Metallic should definitely be in the Cruiserweight division on Raw. I mean, ultimately, it's going to depend on how well he performs. But you get a victory over Tajiri, the WWE must see something in you. If they're willing to let Tajiri, who's just now coming back to WWE for the first time in years, finally have to job out to somebody. That I find to be very intriguing. I was not expecting that. I seriously wasn't. I thought either Tajiri or Brian Kendrick was going to win this thing in the back of my mind. But one thing is certain. These guys put on one hell of a match. I'd love to see both of them go to Raw and be on the Cruiserweight division. I think they would give us a Cruiserweight division we'd never seen before. And I love the fact that after this Cruiserweight Classic is over, we're going to start seeing the Cruiserweights show up a little bit on Raw. I like the fact that we're going to see these guys do what they do on the show. Personally, I would have preferred they go to SmackDown, but because SmackDown's supposed to be the innovating of change. But since Raw is a 3-hour show, it does make sense to put the Cruiserweights there. That way they can, and I like the fact that they're going to put the Cruiserweights on Raw because I'm hoping that what they're going to do is that will put less pressure on the other wrestlers to have to be out in the ring for that 3rd hour. Just let the Cruiserweights kill each other for a little while. Put the Cruiserweights, make sure the Cruiserweights are constantly on the card so that you can do all this other stuff. That's what I'm going to like about it. And on that note, we move on to the second match, which apparently was the main event of the evening. That's why I said it's going to be very short. And because I've already have audio clips of these guys talking, I don't have to get any clips anymore. So we'll just move on to the second match. Cedric Alexander. That was my boy in this thing. USA. Not just because he's from USA, but because he's from Ring of Honor and I know who he is. Versus Kota Ibushi. This was an amazing match. This match right here is probably going to be one of the highlights of the Cruiserweight Classic. Like years from now, people talk about the first ever Cruiserweight Classic. I think this is one match people are going to be talking about. It'll be this and Gargano and Ciampa. They're probably going to be the two main ones that people are going to talk about for years to come. Because Cedric Alexander, that man, this was his coming out party. Welcome to the big league, Cedric. The man who dropped weight to get into this Cruiserweight Classic and did a fantastic job in the process. Oh my God. These guys, of course, him and Ibushi, they shook hands, and these guys took each other to the absolute limit. I mean, it was literally amazing to see. Alexander with a reverse hurricanrana. I mean, that was one of the major highlights that I saw. And then Ibushi at one point went for a golden triangle moonsault, but Alexander ducked out of the way. Ibushi hit a springboard drop to the outside. That's when he went for the golden triangle moonsault. Alexander then ran back, ducked out of the way, got back in the ring, and hit a somersault plancha to take out Ibushi, rolled him back in the ring, hit a spring. And it was funny because he was like going like this, kind of setting him up, trying to say like, come on, come on, come on, come on. But it looked like he was reaching for a tag at first. I'm like, dude, he's not your tag team partner. What the fuck are you doing with your hand? You know what I mean? Like, I thought this was stupid. But then I realized, oh, he's like, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. And then as soon as he gets up, boom, climbs the rope, springboard clothesline. Amazing. Gets a 2 count. As soon as he kicks out, Alexander lands a knife edge chop to Ibushi again. 1, 2, kicked out. Alexander hits a leaping stomp to the chest, goes for a cover again. Again, Ibushi kicks out. Ibushi hits 2 forearms to Alexander. Ibushi hits a spinning heel kick to the midsection of Alexander. Alexander responded with a vicious slap to the chest of Ibushi. And then Alexander goes for the lung blower, but Ibushi gets on his feet. I mean, Ibushi drops Alexander with an exploder suplex. Alexander rolls out of the ring. Ibushi then connects with the golden triangle moonsault. He hits it this time. Ibushi rolls Alexander back in the ring. Alexander kicks out. The crowd is on their feet. Alexander plants Ibushi with a snap Michinoku driver. Boom, Ibushi kicks out again. Alexander can't believe it. Then, of course, Alexander with a back elbow to Ibushi. Ibushi goes for the Frankensteiner, but Alexander gets back up. Ibushi connects with the Pele kick. Ibushi goes for the Golden Star Powerbomb, but Alexander gets back on his feet. Alexander plants Ibushi with a brain buster for a 2 count. He follows it up with a vicious roundhouse kick. Goes for the pin. Again, Ibushi kicks out. Alexander goes for a double foot stomp, but Ibushi rolls out of the way. Ibushi is insecure to Alexander. Ibushi plants with a Golden Star Powerbomb. 1, 2, 3. The winner of the match, Kota Ibushi. And I got to be honest, folks. There's a part of me that's a little pissed off that Cedric Alexander didn't win because I felt that he deserved it. But this match was so great, and it's not even storyline related, I can somewhat let it go. And I can understand, because Kota Ibushi is already signed to WWE. He's already been wrestling. He's already had a match in NXT. So we already know that Kota Ibushi is signed. That's probably why he got the victory. But it is kind of a shame that, you know, Cedric Alexander couldn't win because Cedric put on one hell of a fight. Everyone was proud of him. The crowd is chanting, "Thank you, Cedric." And then at the end of it, as he's walking up, all of a sudden the entire crowd starts chanting, "Please sign Cedric. Please sign Cedric." And Cedric's like crying, like because he's so he's feeling the love. All of a sudden, Triple H comes out. The crowd goes crazy, and he kind of mouths to the crowd, "All right, all right." And then he extends his hand, and then, you know, Cedric has to switch hands. He's got the water bottle in there, and he shakes Cedric's hand. He grabs him by the back of the head, gives him a hug, and then kind of like, you know, rushes him to the back or something. Then he tells him to go to the back, and then Triple H kind of waves to the crowd, and everybody in the audience is going, "Yes, yes, 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 yes," to end the show. Because it looks like Triple H is saying, "All right, we're going to sign Cedric Alexander." So that's the ending. So what Triple H is showing from the audience, you know, and he wasn't rude when he was trying to get him to the back. He just, you know, he just kind of looked up and said, all right, I guess we'll sign him." Shook his hand. And then, of course, Cedric Alexander mentioned that, you know, he and Triple H had a chat after the show, and Triple H did acknowledge Cedric Alexander's talent. And it does look like Triple H is probably going to sign Cedric Alexander. And I think they should. Because like I said, Cedric is an amazing competitor. He's been a badass in Ring of Honor. He ended the undefeated streak of Moose. He conquered Moose's undefeated streak in Ring of Honor. And, even though Moose is now in TNA, but these guys are incredible. I mean, Cedric is an amazing performer. He's great on the mic, great in the ring. He dropped weight to be in the Cruiserweight Classic, but I think after a run or two as Cruiserweight champion, I could definitely see him bulking back up and being a mid-card wrestler, going for the United States title, and then maybe eventually become Universal Champion. I do see that happening with Cedric Alexander. He's one of the few guys in that Cruiserweight division that could someday go into the heavyweight division if they're overrun with cruiserweights. Like, that's something that could definitely be a contributing factor to the equation. I would love to see that. I would. I think Cedric Alexander would do a hell of a job. He's definitely a man with a lot of talent. And I think he could very well be one of the future top stars of the industry. I really do. I can foresee that happening. And that, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up. Yeah, Triple H knows what he's doing. Cedric is definitely going to be on Raw. And let me just say, I look forward to seeing Cedric Alexander on TV. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, at least on Raw, I should say, we will now wrap up the Cruiserweight Classic. We'll tune in. We'll find out next week who's going to advance in the tournament. And now we're just going to go right into NXT. That's right. NXT last night was amazing. Great show. And the show opens up with Bobby Roode coming out of William Regal's office. As we all know, last week, Bobby Roode officially came out to the ring to announce that he has signed with NXT, and he's kind of got the heel-like persona, but he plans to make NXT glorious. And it is an interesting gimmick to have see Bobby Roode using glorious as a catchphrase instead of his patented it factor gimmick that he had in TNA. Although I would like to see him one day say, I'm the it factor of sports entertainment. He's not going to say professional wrestling in WWE. But don't get me wrong, they should say professional wrestling. I'm just saying that's not what they do there. But anyway, they have the opening segment, and here's what happens with between Bobby Roode and the GM, William Regal.
Mr. Regal, I appreciate your time. You're very welcome. Thank you. Is there anything else we need to talk about? No, sir. Okay, well, so excuse me, I have a contract signed to attend to. You have a good day. Thank you very much.
Well, obviously Bobby Roode is very happy. He came up with an idea, but the big question is, what exactly has Bobby Roode come up with? It's going to be intriguing because Bobby Roode just came to NXT. Didn't really, even though he cut a really great promo the week before, we don't know exactly what Bobby Roode's intentions are in NXT. So it'll be intriguing to find out a little later on in the show what exactly he has planned. But as William Regal said, he had a contract signing to attend to, and we kick off NXT with the official contract signing between Bayley and Asuka. They will be facing off for the NXT Women's Championship at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, which takes place next Saturday night. And here is how the contract signing unfolded.
In 2 weeks, an NXT TakeOver, the former NXT Women's Champion Bayley will challenge the lady that defeated her for that very title, the current NXT Women's Champion, Asuka. One of the biggest rematches in NXT history will be made tonight when we sign this contract. So please, could we bring out the challenger, the former NXT Women's Champion, Bayley? Bayley needs to join us briefly on commentary setting ringside and taking the champion match. Bayley invoking a rematch clause for Brooklyn. We all remember what happened last time Bayley proceeded off the stage in a sold-out Barclays Center. She made history. That match that Sasha Banks put on today is one of the greatest women's wrestling matches we've ever seen. But did she do it against someone like Asuka? Because the request of Bayley to do it in Brooklyn, the place her means so much there. You're absolutely right. The loss in Dallas had to bother Bayley, but Bayley has shown a different side against Asuka over the last few weeks. And now the current defending, reigning, and undefeated NXT Women's Champion, Asuka. You're looking at a very confident champion, the one that gave Bayley a ringside seat to a matchup that was destroyed with her opponent last week. But this Regal in a very important word there. Undefeated ever since Asuka debuted. She is undefeated here in NXT. Asuka claiming the NXT Women's Championship in Dallas via submission from Bayley. Asuka has shown no fear to the former NXT Women's Champion. Bayley, you wanted this rematch for a very long time. In fact, ever since TakeOver Dallas. So please, sign on the dotted line and you will get your wish.
I've been fighting for this since the day that I stepped through the NXT doors. 3.5 years ago, I have faced against the most successful women who have ever walked down that ramp. I've competed against Becky Lynch, Sasha, Paige, Charlotte, Nia Jax, and I was seen as the underdog. That was until last year at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn when the underdog became the champion. Brooklyn, my dream came true, and that championship you have around your shoulder became a part of me. And if Brooklyn was my dream, then Dallas was my nightmare as I woke up and saw you raising my NXT Women's Championship. But looking back now, I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared for how tough that match was going to be. But I can tell you right here, right now, that I am ready. Asuka, you are the toughest woman that I've ever been in the ring with. But for me, the Asuka mystique is gone. I'm going back to Brooklyn, and I am doing something that no one has ever been able to do, and that is beat you and become the first ever two-time NXT Women's Champion. Baby, you don't have what it takes. I went under your dream where they came to. But I respected you. And I respect you, Asuka. But the last time you were in a contract signing, you were left lying on the mat. And if you don't want history to repeat itself, I suggest you take your hand, you sign that contract, and you get ready for the big fight of your life. NXT TakeOver Brooklyn.
It's official. An NXT TakeOver on August the 20th. Bayley will face Asuka for the NXT Women's Championship.
Yes, Bayley is definitely going to need all the luck in the world. But I will say this. I loved Bayley's attitude in this. Excuse me. So sorry. This is going to become a trademark of mine, especially with all the soda I drink. But anyway, what I love most about this segment is Bayley was so effective in her promo. Was she gave a newfound attitude. Like, no, I respect you, but I'm not shaking your hand because I'm going into that ring to kick your ass. Bayley was the most aggressive I'd ever seen her, and that was what Bayley needed to do. Bayley needed to find a way to put the game face on. That's ultimately what Bayley needed to do. Put the game face on. Get rid of the smile. Get rid of the happy, happy, joy, joy, and understand who the fuck you're getting in the ring with. And don't get me wrong. I love Bayley's gimmick. She's so nice. She's so sweet. She can kick ass in a wrestling ring. But at some point, you've got, and this is not just with Bayley, this is with anybody. Even John Cena sometimes. You've got to put the song and dance routine out the window in certain times. Now, sometimes you can still be that person. Not everybody deserves your full attention like that. Not everybody deserves your intense version. And you shouldn't waste it. But this was the right time for Bayley to have an attitude. This is the right time for Bayley to have that chip on her shoulder. Especially when Asuka just said, you don't have what it takes. And then she said, something dream where they came true. What the fuck did she say? And then she goes, but I respect you. Jesus Christ. Okay. Someone needs to sit down with Asuka. And okay, at this point, this is a problem I have. And I'm sorry. Asuka either A, needs a manager, or B, someone needs to sit down and either, if you can't articulate very well what you're saying, you can't cut an effective promo. Asuka should have just stopped with, "You don't have what it takes. At Brooklyn, I destroy you, but I respect you." That would have been better. But you can't have Asuka doing long sentence promos. I'm assuming her promos are scripted. If not, they should be. And someone needs to sit down with Asuka and find out how to properly articulate what the fuck she's saying. And I'm not trying to be racist or prejudiced, but I'm sorry. If I can't understand a word you're saying, then you shouldn't be cutting promos. Get her a manager. Get her something. Someone help her with her English. You know, I wish WWE would do that. If you're going to invest time into somebody, into a superstar, and they don't know English, get them somebody to help them out. You know, find a wrestler who speaks Japanese and English. There's somebody in the locker room that can do both. Sit them down, teach them, help coach them through it. You know, let Asuka pull her to the side a little bit when she's not training in the ring, and get her like an English class or something. And have somebody sit her down and say, "Here's how you say it," and help her articulate. That way, when she cuts her promos, we can understand what she's saying. That needs to be a priority for WWE. And don't tell me that it can't be done, because Hideo Itami is doing that. That's why he agreed to stay in NXT. And that's why he was in no hurry to go to the main roster, because he was learning English. And I'm willing to bet you, with the time off that he had, he was taking a fuck ton of English classes while rehabbing his shoulder. I guarantee you he did. That's why I respect Hideo Itami, because he's willing to work on his English, because he knows to succeed in WWE, you got to be able to articulate. You got to be able to cut a promo. You got to be able to make sense. And if you can't make sense, then if it just can't be done, then WWE needs to get them a manager. You need somebody that can cut the promos for you. Just like Paul Heyman. He does all the talking for Brock Lesnar. Because unless Lesnar is doing a sit-down UFC-style promo where you can censor him, he's not going to be good on the mic. We already know he's not. Lesnar sucks at cutting promos. We always known that. That's why he had Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman could do the talking. And Lesnar just went out there. Suplex City, bitch. That was it. F5, you're done. And again, I like Asuka. I think she's an amazing competitor. But I cannot figure out for the life of me, you know. And I know her English is a little bit terrible. I know she's from another country, so I'm not eating her lunch over that. But I'm saying that if she is learning English, then okay, I'll shut up. Then okay, she's making an effort. Okay, I hope she keeps up the good work. But if she's not taking time to learn English, then somebody in the WWE needs to get her on the ball. Or give her less to say. And just make her a quick, effective promo person. Because if I can't understand what you're saying, it's hard for me to get behind you when you talk. You know? It's like the girl with the hot body, but her voice is annoying. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, and I'm not saying that Asuka, I mean, Asuka is kind of hot. I'm not going to lie. But my point is that I'm not saying that's what that type of person she is. She is a phenomenal wrestler. It's just that when she talks, I can't understand what she's saying. The only thing I understood was you don't have what it takes, and I respect you. But all that shit in the middle made no goddamn sense to me. And it's ridiculous to me. She needs to learn. Someone needs to be sitting down and working with her on her promos and her English. Someone needs to be doing it. Find somebody who can do that. Hell, if Ricky Steamboat still worked for WWE, maybe he could help out. I think Ricky Steamboat. Is he Japanese? I don't know. I could be wrong. Let me double check because I don't want somebody coming at me going, "Oh, Vinny's racist because he doesn't know Ricky Steamboat." And da 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 da. Some see it's born. He was born in West Point, New York. That doesn't fucking help me. Born Richard Henry Blood. This does not help me. He was on the school wrestling team, 2-time New York State Wrestling Qualifier, Florida State Champion, American Wrestling Association Championship Wrestling, Jim Crockett Promotions, WWE. He wrestled in New Japan. Personal life. He's of mixed ancestry. Having been born to an English father and a Japanese mother. Okay. So he's Japanese. All right. If he knows how to speak Japanese, I don't know if he does. I'm not going to assume. I don't know. If he knows how to speak Japanese, then then bring him back, have him tutor Asuka. Or better yet, maybe get Hideo Itami. Maybe he could tutor Asuka. Since he's learning English so well, since he's speaking English very well, have him educate. Get somebody to tutor Asuka. Just help her out. And maybe help her move the accent around and teach. Teach her up. Coach her up. Because I want Asuka to do well. I really do. But I can't understand a goddamn word she's saying. But other than that, the segment was great. Bayley, rejecting the handshake, getting back in the ring, staring her down. Asuka kind of leaves the ring. I think she tripped over a high heel at one point because she loves to wear high heel shoes for reasons I don't know why. Yeah. So Bayley kind of won the stare off, which is great. And I'm definitely rooting for Bayley this Sunday. I mean, next Saturday. I'm definitely rooting for Bayley at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. I want to see her walk out with the women's championship because even though Bayley got a great crowd reaction at Battleground, and even though she is more than ready to be called to the main roster, I'm still worried the women's division is going to suffer because of it. And I don't see anybody else on that roster that can beat Asuka. They have to bring somebody in. And even Joey Styles agrees with me. Joey Styles recently did an interview. I haven't got a chance to see the whole thing. I only saw a little bit of it. But Joey Styles, who I think recently got let go by WWE, I don't remember. But even he said they would probably have to bring somebody in. They'd have to bring somebody in, either someone from New Japan, if there's a new female wrestler coming in, or if they want to get somebody like we've heard rumors that Velvet Sky has an interest in coming to WWE, and she's dating Bubba Dudley, so it would only make sense to have Velvet Sky come in, then eventually have Velvet Sky go to Raw, and then she could wrestle for the women's championship as well as be the Duchess of Dudleyville like Stacy Keibler was back in the day. Except granted, Velvet Sky is a much better wrestler than Stacy Keibler, but still, it could be a great segment for Velvet Sky. I'd love to see her come in. And I even talked about Gail Kim when she gets after her TNA Hall of Fame induction, when her contract expires. I think she should leave and go to NXT. I know she's vowed to never sign with WWE again, but she could take the shot. So they're the only people I see realistically beating Asuka because they've made her unstoppable, and none of these women are even close to being ready to be on a level that Asuka's at. They have really screwed the pooch with these multiple call-outs from the women's division. It's like the women's wrestling's now amazing on the main roster and sucks on NXT. It's like we've entered a twilight zone. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we'll move on to the next match here, which is actually not the next match, but the first official match of the evening, which is the Authors of Pain with Paul Ellering in their corner versus Nails and Rising. Okay. This match was pretty much a squash match. I have no idea who Nails and Rising are. I know that the Nails that's in the ring is not the same Nails from the DOA, from the early from the Attitude Era. Definitely not them. But these guys definitely got basically the Authors of Pain got in the ring and basically pummeled these guys, picked them up for stereo power bombs. Before slamming on the mat, they smashed Nails and Rising into each other first, like a clang, and then boom at the powerbomb. Then they hit a Russian leg sweep clothesline finish. 1, 2, 3. The winners of the match, the Authors of Pain. After the match, the Authors of Pain are about to attack Nails and Rising again, but TM61 hits the ring to make the save. Miller tries the 10 punches in the corner, but AOP1 power bombs him. Thorne ends up eating AOP's sidewalk slam head kick combo. So now it looks like they're going to start a rivalry between the Authors of Pain and TM61. We originally thought there were going to be a feud between them and American Alpha, but since American Alpha got called to the main roster, they decided to just let the Authors of Pain beat them down and write them off TV. Although there is a part of me that still would have liked to have seen them at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn take out the Authors of Pain. Since it looks like American Alpha is probably not going to have a match at SummerSlam unless they add something in at the last minute. That's the only real thing I could possibly think of that could happen. But anyway, it's still a great moment for the Authors of Pain. We still haven't heard Paul Ellering speak, and we're still trying to figure out the motive of the Authors of Pain. But as Paul Ellering says, and I love this phrase, they will let us know in due time. In due time. I like that. So Paul Ellering doesn't feel like he has to speak yet, but I'm sure eventually he'll have something to say when it comes to the Authors of Pain. And on that note, we cut to the backstage area with Shinsuke Nakamura. And he's in the back. And as we know, last week it's been announced that Nakamura and Samoa Joe are going to fight for the NXT Championship at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. And as we all know, Samoa Joe is planning to destroy Shinsuke Nakamura. Well, here's what he has to say about Samoa Joe.
Shinsuke, your actions have clearly angered Samoa Joe. Are you concerned about his threat to take you out before TakeOver Brooklyn?
Yes. I'm hard to find, but Samoa Joe shouldn't worry. I will find him when I want to.
Bold words from Shinsuke Nakamura. Well, that is definitely a better interview that I've heard from Nakamura. I think his promo skills are slowly getting better, liking the fact that I can understand him a little bit more on the mic. And I think he's doing very well now, or he's starting to get into a groove promo-wise. Hopefully at some point Asuka can follow suit. But if Nakamura can keep these promos up, I might be okay with him winning the NXT title. But the big question is, if he does win the NXT title, will he get called up? Will Samoa Joe get called to the main roster after that? Or will they continue to have like a little rivalry going back and forth that will ultimately lead to Samoa Joe going to the main roster afterwards? It's going to be interesting to see. Very interesting to see. And obviously Nakamura is very, very popular amongst the fans. So if he did win NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, it would definitely be a hell of a show. I think that Nakamura is definitely going to be the face of NXT. I mean, the crowd is extremely popular, extremely in love with Shinsuke Nakamura, and they have been since he's gotten there. They know him as the king of throne style. And I've always been, my big thing, like I said, I've only been concerned with the promos. I'm good with the ring, but, I'm saying if you're going to put a championship belt on somebody, if you're going to make them the top guy of your company or of your show or whatever, then I do believe you've got to be good on the mic. And a lot of people look at me like I'm nuts or I worry too much about it. But to be honest, I don't think people really worry about it enough. I think people need to be a little bit more concerned about, what's going down on the show. So, I mean, at least that's how I feel. And it's definitely something that I think needs to be taken seriously by the management. But either way, I look forward to Nakamura and Samoa Joe next week at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. And on that note, I'll move on to the next match of the evening. We got Andrade Cien Almas versus Angelo Dawkins. And this match was relatively short, but still very, very well done. Like, this shows that sometimes it doesn't, not all the time, but sometimes it doesn't matter how long a match is, as long as you can get a lot of good moves done within the period of time. And that's exactly what we saw here. Andrade Almas displayed his skills once again, taking down Dawkins with a Hurricanrana. He does miss a springboard attack, which allowed Dawkins to land a huge right hand. Dawkins grounds Almas with a rear chin lock. Almas fights out of it, kicks Dawkins in the head. Almas climbs up Dawkins' shoulders and spins into a sunset flip for a 2 count, which was amazing. Dawkins crawls to the corner. Almas hits his running double knees in the corner, picks up Dawkins, stings him with a hammerlock DDT. 1, 2, 3. Andrade Cien Almas wins the match. And I kind of had a feeling he was going to win because they're obviously pushing Andrade to be a legit player in NXT, and Angelo Dawkins is pretty much a jobber at this point. He's one of those guys that when you see him step into the ring, you know he's going to lose. You know there's nothing invested in Angelo Dawkins. You know he's not a guy they're looking to build the company around. He's there merely to be an enhancement talent, and he gets paid very well, or not very well, but he gets paid a decent amount to do that because NXT. You're not making a ton of money in NXT. I mean, you might make a little bit, but not as much as the main roster is. Because that's why you get developmental. They pay you, but they're not going to pay you like the big bucks till you earn it. Although some of these NXT stars might get paid a decent amount, the stars at least, but especially with the merchandise and the fact that it's pretty much become its own brand, I'm sure they're making a decent amount of coin. But I know they definitely make more when they go on the main roster. You're definitely making better bank, though. Some serious bank, though. And, of course, Andrade Cien Almas does a hell of a job in the ring. Very, very talented. Love what he brought to the table. And, of course, after the match, all of a sudden, as Andrade celebrates, Bobby Roode comes out to the ring. And earlier, Bobby Roode, as we said before, he spoke with William Regal and had a great idea. And now Bobby Roode decided to take this time to reveal his new plan. And here's what Bobby Roode has to say to CN.
Congratulations! Yeah. No, not on the win. No, not on the win. I mean, it was a win. I mean, it was okay. I mean, Aggressive. Maybe a little sloppy, maybe a little rough around the edges, maybe a little minor league, but hey, you won, and that's all that matters, right? No, I'm here to congratulate you about something else. You see, I had a chance to talk to Mr. Regal earlier today, and I told him that I felt that NXT TakeOver Brooklyn needed to be a little more sophisticated. I needed a little more star power, if you know what I mean. I mean, 15,000 people jammed into the Barclays Center. I mean, that night it's gonna need something. It's gonna need something. It's gonna need what's the word? What's the word that I'm looking for? Oh yeah, it needs to be glorious. I'm happy to tell you that he agreed, and he's put me in a match. Yeah, he's put me in a match against you. So congratulations. And by the way, amigo, I know you have a hard time understanding English, so I'm going to say it real slow. Those 15,000 people in that arena that night, they're not paying to see you. They are paying to see me. TakeOver will be my showcase, and mark my words, that night will be glorious. A sold-out Barclays Center, Tom. It's going to be glorious. Hallelujah, Tom. Can I get an amen? TakeOver Brooklyn, Bobby Rivers, Andrade, Cien Almas. It's going to be sophisticated and glorious.
Oh, yeah. Glorious. So Bobby Roode will be making his in-ring debut. He's already debuted. He'll be making his in-ring debut at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. And I agree. There needs to be some star power at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn because right now there isn't a whole lot. I mean, definitely. That is a deal. That is an issue. I mean, because I'm looking at the updated card, and well, everybody else is like, this is an awesome card, solid card, incredible. You know, all I know is it's not as good as last year. The card is really, I think that people are giving this card way too much fucking credit. Right now it's opposite day in WWE. Last year, you know, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn had a more solid card than SummerSlam. This year, it's SummerSlam and NXT. SummerSlam has a solid card, NXT not so much. You know why? Because all the stars that were on that show last year are on SummerSlam this year because they got called up. So I'm sorry. SummerSlam is the better card this year. Don't get me wrong. I'm still going to watch NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. I watch all the takeovers. Excuse me. Hopefully Elvis and I will be able to get together to watch it. Because I know we like to do that from time to time. Even though the last NXT TakeOver, we didn't really get a chance to hang out and see. But, you know, hopefully next Saturday, you know, maybe Elvis and I might watch NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Unless I'm at the Laughing Skull with Eddie Ift, then I'm probably not going to be watching TakeOver Brooklyn. I'll probably watch it. Maybe during the week if I have to. If I really have to, I'll probably watch it like, you know, Wednesday after the Boochcast on 24th if I absolutely have to You know, well, I absolutely will have to see it. I have to see it by at least Thursday because it's NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. So I would have to watch it at some point, you know, or I might just recap it Monday. I don't know. I might just do SummerSlam first and then NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. You know, that's what I'll probably do. I'll figure it all out. I'll definitely figure it out. You know, worst case scenario, if I, you know, I'll probably just watch it, you know, later on. I don't know what I'm gonna do with Brooklyn, to be honest. I'll either be watching it with Elvis or I'll be hanging out at the Laughing Skull with Eddie Ift. If I have a choice, I'm gonna watch with Eddie Ift because comedy comes first. But you know, Sunday I will definitely be watching SummerSlam, but I at least want to hang out with Eddie Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night, at least. If for no other reason than to, you know, do the interview for the Boochcast. But also because Eddie Ift is my friend, and I want to spend time with him. I want to hang out with him. Who knows? Maybe I'll even get some stage time, too. I don't know. But anyway, Bobby Roode, does a hell of a job. Him and Andre Cien Almas is going to be one hell of a fight. Andrade had a great showing against the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger, at the last TakeOver show, the end. And he definitely is displaying his dominance as a great wrestler. So I think him and Bobby Roode are definitely going to have a great match. I really do. And it's going to be great to see Bobby Roode step into an NXT ring in front of a WWE crowd. And I know Dixie Carter can't be too happy to hear that. And depending on what goes down Thursday night on Impact Wrestling, James Storm will either be the happiest person in the world or he'll be kicking himself wishing he was there with Bobby Roode for this TakeOver event. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to cut to the next segment here, which is, of course, Austin Aries, the other TNA guy, and ironically, Bobby Roode's former tag team partner from the Dirty Heels. We cut to Austin Aries, who is having a chat with William Regal because, as we all know, as I said before, and I'll keep saying throughout the show, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn takes place next Saturday night at the Barclays Center. And the big question on everyone's mind is, where's Austin Aries? He doesn't seem to have a match. Well, Aries feels the same way. And here's what he has to say to William Regal about not being on the card.
These are organic and non-GMO when I can. And, actually these are low glycemic and they help with digestion. All right. Well, this is why I'm really here. TakeOver in Brooklyn. And we call these TakeOver event specials, right? Specials. So how special could it be if I'm not on the card? And unless I miss some memo or something, I don't have an opponent in Brooklyn. I mean, Samoa Joe has an opponent. Austin's got an opponent. Bobby Roode's got an opponent. He's been here 5 minutes, but yet the greatest man who ever lived. No opponent. What are we going to do about that? Austin, you're right. Somebody of your stature should have an opponent in NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Of course. And so you shall. I feel just the man. Perfect. Somebody you know very well. In fact, somebody you've been avoiding for a while now. No way, Jose. Whoa. Show yourself out, please. I don't avoid anybody. I've been ignoring him because he's not in my league. And in Brooklyn, I'm going to show you that.
All right, indeed. We've got ourselves another match added to NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. Austin Aries, the greatest man that ever lived, will take on No Way Jose. No way. 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 Jose. There we go. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Knew this match was going to happen. And now it is confirmed for NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. The card is now getting stacked. And so far, all 3 TNA members of the show are on the card. Samoa Joe with Shinsuke Nakamura, Bobby Roode with Andre Cien Almas, and Austin Aries and No Way Jose. So you've already got the 3 main TNA guys on there. And in terms of TNA, we got, actually the only TNA guy we're missing is Eric Young. Don't know where he is. We'll have to figure out why. I'm a little shocked that he's not part of NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. That's a bit of a shame. So aside from Eric Young, we got everybody else. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on to the next match of the evening, which is Billie Kay versus Liv Morgan. And this is another NXT women's match. And Billie Kay looks to be the next girl they're pushing, because she got a win last time, I think, against Santana Garrett. And she managed to defeat Liv Morgan in this match. And I will say, she has a great entrance. Liv Morgan does too. I like Billie Kay's outfit. All she's really missing is a fan and a little bit of a veil mask. And she could look exactly like Princess Katana from Mortal Kombat. She's got that look to her. She's got the blue and the black, and the way she wears it is sexy, and it's amazing. I think this could be a very good look for her. I would love to see her be like a Mortal Kombat style look to her. And of course, the in-ring action is great. Decent amount of women's wrestling, but great for these two who are just now getting into the ring, getting used to the idea of working matches without having to be freaking jobbers. And of course, a lot of basic moves here, shoulder blocks, headlocks. Although Morgan does dust the dirt off her shoulders and hits a head spring head scissors, which sends Kay into the corner. Morgan tries to flip Kay out of the corner, but Kay drops Morgan on the turnbuckle. Kay elbows Morgan in the face for a 2 count. Morgan surprises Kay with a jawbreaker. Morgan monkey flips Kay. Misses a head kick. Kay pushes Morgan in the ropes and obliterates her with a big boot. 1, 2, 3. The winner of the match, Billie Kay. And like I said before, it looks like they're really starting to build up Billie Kay here, which I like. Liv Morgan got a decent amount of shots in, so she's proving that she's no slouch, and Billie Kay had to work for the win. And I think we need to see more of this. We need to see more women on the card as much as possible, because we need to show that A, there's going to be more women for the division, and we need to get this division back to the way it used to be. So I think they really need to start focusing on getting more women in the ring, because we're not seeing a whole lot of them, or we hadn't been. And right now we just got Bayley and Asuka. And like I said, if Bayley gets called up, if Bayley loses at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn and gets called up to the main roster after SummerSlam, it's just going to be Asuka. And then who the fuck is going to beat her? Like, it might end up, Asuka might end up being the person who gets called up to the main roster and then has to forfeit the NXT championship the way Paige did when she got called up. And then they just have those women fight over the title. That way Asuka doesn't get buried and she just retires and she just leaves NXT as the champion. That is literally the only way you can build Asuka up as a monster if Bayley doesn't beat her. Or, like I said before earlier in the show, bring somebody else in. That's your only options. And Billie Kay, she's an incredible talent, showing how good she is in the ring. Her and Liv Morgan, I think, could definitely be I don't think we'll ever see anything like the 4 horsewomen ever again, but hopefully they can get the women's matches back to some level of entertainment, because I worry that the women wrestling will suffer in NXT now that the main roster has all the talented females who aren't there to put these women over. And I think that's a big problem they're having, and I think it's going to hurt. And it's not hurting the main roster, but it's definitely hurting NXT, which seems to be what. And I don't know if they're what they should do in that regard. And on that note, we cut to the backstage area with William Regal, who now has another 2 guys in his office, which are Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, who last time we saw them, they were fighting each other in the Cruiserweight Classic. Johnny Gargano ended up winning and advancing to the next round. And also they had a tag team match on NXT. And William Regal has a message for Gargano and Ciampa, as well as a very important question he needs to ask them.
Gentlemen, the bout that you two had at the Cruiserweight Classic tournament last week was incredible. Hard-fought competition, everything that this industry should be all about. Absolutely brilliant. But you two competing against each other is not going to affect you as a team in any way, because there's something you need to know. At NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, you both will be facing the Revival for the NXT Tag Team Championships, and I don't want anything to mess that up. Mr. Regal, almost a year ago, you stood in his office and introduced us to the world as two of the hottest free agents in professional wrestling. Then we showed why in the Cruiserweight Classic. Man, we went to war in the Cruiserweight Classic, and I understand the question. I do. But that's what families do. Families fight. The difference between us and families don't get to choose. We do. And I continue today to choose Johnny Gargano as my tag team partner. The Revival is really big on tradition. That's good. Because in Brooklyn, history is going to repeat itself. It's going to repeat itself when we beat the Revival again. And we become the new NXT Tag Team Champ. Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Just when we thought the card couldn't get any crazier, we get it now. William Regal has now made it official. It will be the Revival defending the NXT Tag Team titles against Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. And that was a very emotional moment right there, where Tommaso Ciampa said, look, families fight. The only difference is families don't get to choose. We do. And I choose Johnny Gargano as my family and my tag team partner. So that right there shows us that the Cruiserweight Classic has not affected them in any way. They did what they needed to do. They had a hell of a fight. And now their focus is on becoming the NXT Tag Team Champions. There is a part of me that hopes they win it. My only concern is if Gargano and Ciampa do become the NXT Tag Team Champions, what's going to happen to the Revival? Are they going to stay in NXT and try to become 3-time NXT Tag Team Champions? Or will they take that call up to the main roster? And if they do, other than the Authors of Pain and TM61, who else is going to be down there to face Gargano and Ciampa for those NXT Tag Team titles? Like I said, you could always put Bobby Roode and Austin Aries back together as the Dirty Heels. And I've learned that you can, in fact, wrestle. I mean, and it is possible. Like I'll look at it right here. The NXT Championship. You can fight for the NXT title while at the same time being the NXT Tag Team Champions. For example, if we look here, Adrian Neville has been a 2-time NXT Tag Team Champion. He first won it as part of the British Ambition with Oliver Gray. And then he won it again with Corey Graves. You know. And of course, at the time, Adrian Neville teamed up with Bo Dallas, who filled in for the injured Oliver Gray. Then eventually, Adrian Neville and Corey Graves became tag team champions. And yeah. So Adrian Neville was a NXT champion as well as a 2-time NXT tag team champion with different partners. So you can win both belts. So I would love to see Bobby Roode and Austin Aries as the Dirty Heels become the NXT tag team champions. Then after they lose the belts, they split up. And then I like to see Bobby Roode become NXT champion. Then once he loses the belt, go to the main roster. Maybe even have Austin Aries beat him for the title. Have Austin Aries be the champion. Bobby Roode goes to the main roster. Aries stays as champion. Then someone takes the belt off of him. He goes to the main roster and does his thing. That's what I would love to see happen. I want to see Bobby Roode and Austin Aries become tag team champions and then NXT champions on their own. Put that diversity on them because they're great as a team and they're great as solo guys. I think NXT should take advantage of that and use that to keep NXT relevant. Because if you keep calling up all the stars, yeah, the main roster is going to be stacked. But NXT will go back to being the developmental territory that it once was. And even though I believe that's the way it should be, at the same time, I'm well aware of the fact that NXT has become its own brand. And if you take away all its stars, it won't be as watchable as it was when they first arrived. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But if the Revival retains the belts, that means they're staying for a little while longer. If Gargano and Ciampa win, I'll see what happens with the Revival. Although I do want to see Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa win because it will be intriguing to see what happens, even though the Revival is the first ever 2-time NXT Tag Team Champions, which is why I think Bayley has a shot at winning the title because they're probably going to want to make her the first ever 2-time NXT Women's Champion, especially since Bayley is the most popular of all the NXT women that have ever been in NXT. Bayley is like the flagship star. So she should be a 2-time NXT Women's Champion. Then when the day finally comes for her to drop that title the second time, then you can bring her up. And eventually we're going to need a 2-time NXT champion, which I wouldn't be shocked if Samoa Joe held that moniker with the success that he's gotten. And on that note, we can move on to the next match here, which is Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano versus Tucker Knight and Patrick Clark. Now, Tucker Knight is basically a random jobber who's come in and out and gotten his ass kicked for the better part of this entire broadcast. But at the same time, Johnny Gargano, at the same time, Patrick Clark, I don't know if he's being treated like a jobber, at least he is for now, but as we all know, Patrick Clark is the guy from NXT who, not the guy from Tough Enough, who is very, very talented, but also an arrogant piece of shit. Who, in my opinion, did not deserve to win Tough Enough, which is why I was kind of glad that he didn't. But I was also very disappointed in the fact that, the guy who did win Tough Enough, the Yeti, we haven't seen much of him. I don't even know if he's still with the company or not, although he did kind of bury himself with that social jobbers post because he's an idiot. But time will tell if he, gets over that or not, because I haven't seen or heard much from him. But anyway, these guys did put on a hell of a match. Patrick Clark showing that he is a great hand in the ring. I just hope that he's learned his lesson from his arrogant, shitty comments that he used to make. But at the end of the day, it was still a great match, amazing chemistry. Patrick Clark pretty much was the guy, that got to prove himself in this fight. Tucker Knight was pretty much the guy he was the jobber who took all the beatings. Patrick Clark was really the only one who dished out any real punishment for his team. But in the end, Gargano was able to, and Ciampa were able to take them out as Gargano speared Knight through the ropes. And then Ciampa and Gargano had a super kick knee strike combo. 1, 2, 3. The winners of the match, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, which obviously we all kind of knew they were going to win because they're going to look strong going into NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. However, Patrick Clark did give a great showing and showed that he is, getting better and definitely has what it takes to be a star on NXT in the future. And of course, Tucker Knight proving that he ain't nothing but a jobber. It ain't nothing but a job thing, baby, but my bank account prevents me from going crazy. And on that note, we're about to move on to the main event of the evening, which is Mojo Rawley versus Samoa Joe. However, before the match, Mojo Rawley has something he likes to say to the NXT champion.
Excuse me, Mojo. What are your thoughts on facing the NXT champion Samoa Joe tonight?
I ain't that guy, man. I ain't that guy. I don't know who they think they're messing with, but they're messing with the wrong one because that's twice. Man, that's twice now that some fat 900-pound heavyweight sucking goes in my business. Yeah. Tonight, I'm bringing the fight to Joe. And it isn't even about getting hyped. Tonight, it's about getting even. Let's go!
Well, Mojo's obviously got a bit of an edge to him for this match. And I will say this. I'm a little confused as to why Mojo Rawley is the only superstar that seems to be staying in it, that seems to be going back and forth between NXT and the main roster. But I got a feeling that after this match, this is probably the last we're going to see of Mojo Rawley on NXT. Now that he's on SmackDown Live, and from the looks of that tag team turmoil, it looks like him and the Hype Bros are going to go full throttle with their gimmick and their show and what they're going to be doing. And I definitely want to, see how this goes moving forward. And I definitely want to see what they're going to bring to the table in the future. The Hype Bros, I mean. I hope to see them do very well as a team. I think that SmackDown is going to be very interesting. And, with the Hype Bros in terms of that and where they go from there and whether or not SmackDown is going to bring out a tag team title or whatever, even though Daniel Bryan has said that it's on the way, but they're taking their time with it. They're probably going to wait till Backlash to take care of it, which is going to be the first SmackDown only pay-per-view. It airs September 11th. But it's going to be interesting. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens here and where they go. But it obviously isn't going to have anything to do with NXT, as I'm about to tell you, because I will say this. If this is Mojo Rawley's last time in NXT, he went out the best way, as he was the main event of NXT, where he went one-on-one with Samoa Joe. And what I like about this match was that it wasn't a complete squash match for Samoa Joe. They let Mojo Rawley do his thing. They really did. Rawley bull rushes Joe and forces him into the corner. Rawley lands a few punches before Joe knees him in the gut. Rawley lands a shoulder block that sends Joe tumbling to the outside. Rawley follows Joe to the outside of the ring. Rawley headbutts Joe. Rawley gets a full head of steam and charges Joe. Joe moves out of the way and tosses Rawley headfirst into the ring steps. Joe then rolls Rawley back into the ring, crushes Rawley with a running back elbow, followed by a falling reverse enziguri. Joe sits Rawley up on the top rope for the muscle buster, but Rawley fights out of it, dives on top rope for a clothesline. Joe tries to lock in the Coquilla clutch, but Raleigh turns into a full Nelson slam for a 2 count. Raleigh crushes Joe in the corner. Raleigh attempts another splash, but Joe catches him, and Urange suplexes him. Joe then yells, Nakamura! And locks in the Coquilla clutch for the win. Now, he doesn't choke him out. Mojo does tap out. And at the end, Samoa Joe wins the match. Now, it's blatantly obvious that Samoa Joe was going to win this match. It was obvious to everyone. You know why? A, he's the NXT champion. B, Mojo Rawley's on the main roster. And C, because he has this fight with Nakamura at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. So if he doesn't fight him, if he doesn't do that, if Samoa Joe doesn't win, then he looks weak going into the match against Nakamura. So Mojo Rawley doesn't need to win. However, I do appreciate the fact that they let Mojo Rawley put up a fight, and it wasn't just Samoa Joe beating down on Mojo Rawley and embarrassing him. They didn't turn Mojo Rawley into a jobber. Samoa Joe capitalized on Mojo Rawley missing a splash or missing a spear, and that's what gave Samoa Joe the edge. But before that, Mojo Rawley was putting the beating on Joe, which is what needed to happen. So that way, Mojo Rawley looks tough and looks strong when he gets on the main roster. It doesn't hurt Mojo at all. That's the beauty of this main event match. That's what made this main event match perfect. And then, of course, after the match, Joe puts Rawley back in the clutch. When the next thing you know, Nakamura walks out on the ramp. Before he can get in the ring, security runs in front of him and restrains Joe because Samoa Joe is like a beast. He's crazy. They're holding him back. Meanwhile, Nakamura gets in the ring and he just starts dancing around, doing his goofy little thing, and Joe's just getting madder and madder. And then Nakamura just walks up to Joe. Security's trying to prevent him, but Nakamura's like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything. And he's just staring at Joe, and Joe's like trying to fight through security, but he can't. So Nakamura comes over and does he basically, and then he grabs Samoa's nose and then he basically does that thing when you're a kid and your parents walk up to you and go, look, I got your nose. I got your nose. He's doing that to Samoa Joe. Nakamura's just grabbing him and doing the got your nose thing. He's not saying got your nose, but he's doing the hand gesture, which is making Joe even more mad. Now he's like livid. He's like yelling, I'm going to kill you. And then like all this security is doing everything. And then Nakamura starts patting Joe on the head like he's a dog, like, good boy, who's a good boy? And then just starts dancing around the ring to close out the show as Samoa Joe is just like insane. Notice all the security is grabbing Joe. No one's grabbing Nakamura. Why? Because that to me tells me that Joe is so freaking dangerous that they need more protection for Joe than they do for Nakamura. Like they got one or two security guys standing on the sides to make sure Nakamura doesn't hit Joe or anything. But the best part about Nakamura is he doesn't punch Joe. He doesn't slap Joe. He just fucks with him. Because that's in Nakamura's character. I'm just going to fuck with him. Look, I got your nose. I'm going to pat you on the head. Like, just fucks with him. Because here's the thing. That pisses someone off even more. Because most guys, when they're tough guy fighters, they're expecting you to punch them in the face or slap them across the face. They'll get mad, but they expect it. What you really want to do is emasculate the guy. That makes him even madder. When you can emasculate someone, that's even worse than hitting them. Because, guys, the older we get, the more we're used to getting hit or expecting to get hit. And if a guy whoops your ass, you can still walk out with a little bit of dignity and respect after a fight, especially if you mark the guy. Or you get him to bleed a little bit before you lose the fight. You can still walk out of there with a little bit of honor and dignity. But if somebody emasculates you or does the whole got your nose thing and you can't do anything about it, that's even worse. That fucks with you even more. That brings even more disrespect to you than a punch or a slap ever could. So I give mad props to Nakamura for that. I thought that was the best thing, and it fits his gimmick. So he's not being a stupid comedic character. That fits what Nakamura would do. Now, I know that sounds weird for me to say because up until he came to NXT, I didn't know a whole lot about Nakamura. But from what I'm seeing in his gimmick, it fits his gimmick. Or whatever current gimmick he has in NXT. It fits the gimmick. So it works great for him. It really does. All right, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to wrap up the recap of NXT. And right now, we have the new updated card for NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, which is going to take place next Saturday on the WWE Network. And here is the updated card. We've got, for the NXT Championship, Samoa Joe versus Shinsuke Nakamura. That one's going to be a bit of a toss-up. Although I'm pretty sure Nakamura is going to win. That's my prediction, just based on the success that he's gotten in NXT. And the fact that he beat Finn Balor to get to earn this title shot. Because he said, if I want to be the champion, I have to beat Icon. So that seems to work there. The NXT Women's Championship match. We got Asuka versus Bayley. I believe that Bayley is going to win. Just for the simple fact that there's nobody else on that roster that's strong enough or credible enough to beat Asuka in the women's division. They had other women that could do it, but they all got called up to the main roster. So Bayley right now is the only one. Unless you're planning on bringing in another star like Velvet Sky or something like that, or if this new Ember Moon person who I think is a female is supposed to debut, if Ember Moon ends up being a girl, then maybe Ember Moon could be the one to beat Asuka. I don't know. I don't know much about Ember Moon, but we'll find out at Brooklyn. So unless they want it, so if Asuka wins, then Ember Moon's probably the only one that can beat Asuka. So that's going to depend on that, but I still think Bayley's going to be the first ever two-time NXT Women's Champion. Also for the tag team titles, we got the Revival versus Gargano and Ciampa. My prediction for that is Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa are going to win. I think they're going to beat the Revival. I think the Revival is probably going to the main roster real soon, and there's not a lot of tag teams left. So I think Gargano and Ciampa realistically have to win the tag team titles. Otherwise, the Revival is going to look strong while everybody else looks weak. Unless you want to let the Authors of Pain be the ones to beat the Revival, then maybe. But aside from that, I don't see anybody else. Also, we got Austin Aries versus No Way Jose. I got a strong chance that Austin Aries is going to win that match. And we got Bobby Roode versus Andrade Cien Almas. Strongly convinced that Bobby Roode's going to win. It's his first in-ring debut. They're going to want Bobby Roode to look good. They're going to want Bobby Roode to look glorious. So, obviously, Bobby Roode is the guy that's going to win. No doubt about that. No doubt. And that's about it for the NXT Revival card. And that's going to wrap up the NXT recap. We'll definitely see what happens next week on NXT, which will be the go-home edition before NXT TakeOver Brooklyn. And I see how much time we got left, so we're obviously going to go into overtime. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to conclude the live broadcast with another No Lips, No Teeth Part 3 song. And then when I return in the overtime section, we'll talk about Season 6 of The Wonder Years. So for the live listeners, let me just say, until next time, this will be Vinny Bucci, a.k.a. The Booch, saying keep on living life and take care. I will talk to you guys tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. West Coast time, where I'll be doing a recap of TNA. I don't know. It's like of TNA Impact Wrestling, which will air tonight on Pop TV. And it's going to be one hell of a recap. Also, Desmond will not be on the show because he has to work tomorrow due to the fact that he got rained out of work yesterday. So he won't be there, but I'll still be recapping TNA as well as getting into a variety of other fun stories. So I'll talk to the live listeners tomorrow. And right now, for the people listening to the archives, we're going to take a short break here. And when I come back, we'll do the recap of season 6 of the Wonder Years. So stick around. I'll be right back.
It's a secret love affair, like two people at night. You belong to someone else, it isn't right. But here we are, making love, right and wrong. I like to know, should we really go on? Will it be, will this be the last time? I don't know. Will it be, will this be the last time? I don't know. If love is you,
90 seconds.
I don't wanna do no right. I know you're not alright. I fell up for the stolen time. As we lay, forget the price we have to pay. So let's love away. Tonight may be the last we meet. So tell me, girl, should we really let go? Will it be, baby? Will it be the last
60 seconds.
I don't know. Will it be, baby? Will this be the last time? I don't know. Can we let our love slip from you? Or will it be wrong to let go? Don't wanna be missing you. For me, I know it's no mistake. Let's put our love in the hands of Hello and welcome back to the Boochcast. During the break, we played the song "Will This Be the Last Time" by C-Batch and James Buddy Love Herring, who are both, I believe C-Batch is in it, I don't know, but I know James Buddy Love Herring is in the movie No Lips, No Teeth Part 3, starring Derek Shapiro as his alter ego, Takashima. He talks like this. He has no lips and no teeth. And, of course, also starring there is other members of the Whack Pack, which consists of
Serenity Rose, Joe Bag, multiple other, myself, Jerry Truman, and of course, Spacey Christina, who was a guest on the Boochcast. Actually, it was about a week ago today. She was a guest on the Boochcast last Thursday. I had a chat with Spacey Christina, which is why I didn't recap season 6 of the Wonder Years on this last week, was because I had Spacey on. So I used the extra time to finish my season 5 recap, play the remaining clips I didn't get a chance to play. So I used that extra time to fill that in. So, and she was a hell of a guest. Loved having her on. If anything, she has motivated me to want to start bringing guests back on the show again. So if you are a fan of Spacey Christina, you can check her out in the movie No Lips, No Teeth Part 3, which is available on movieinternetchannel.yolosite.com, as well as the Movie Internet Channel YouTube channel. Make sure you check it out. It's a hell of a great show. You can find it on the Boochcast Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/theboochcast, TheBoochcast. Like the page so you can support the Boochcast, and you can scroll down and you will find the movie No Lips, No Teeth, Part 3. Check it out. It is one hell of a great, great movie by Derek Shapiro, who, by the way, who should be in studio on Monday and when he comes into town, and we are going to have one hell of a great, great time with him. In fact, as we speak, I think he's on the road right now, heading on down to the ATL. So Monday, Shap will be in town. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we will now commence with the season 6 recap of the Wonder Years. And this, of course, was the last season of the Wonder Years, and definitely the climactic season to what was definitely one of the most beloved series of all time. And it starts off with Homecoming. And how it goes is Kevin, who is now in the 11th grade alongside Winnie, his girlfriend, and Paul, the class president. Bored, he is becoming a wise guy in class with his new friend, Jeff Billings. After the school's rival steals his school's night mascot, Kevin tries to make a name for himself when he steals, then frees their owl mascot. Kevin is also now the delivery guy at Mr. Chong's and has to advertise the business on his car, making Winnie embarrassed to ride with him. Wayne now works in the mailroom at Norcom and lives in the family's basement. So now Wayne gets his own basement room. He no longer has to have Karen's old room. Kevin's still in his old room the way it's always been, and I don't know what they're doing with Karen's room. Meanwhile, Wayne's old buddy, David Wertschafter, returns home from a tour in Vietnam, a changed man. But he doesn't feel welcome at the big game when an anonymous shout of murderer is directed towards him. They later find Wart sitting alone with his clothes on the ground in a neat pile. He says nothing seems to fit anymore, but he wasn't talking about the size of his clothes. So Wayne offers the shirt off his own back. And I actually have the clip right here of Wart when he's sitting on a park bench, basically because, people are asking him all these questions about, usually what teenagers would ask if you see somebody in the army, like they teach you how to shoot a gun? Did you actually have to kill somebody? Because those are questions people love to ask. But some people aren't comfortable talking about it, and Wart is one of them. Because Vietnam, a lot of people have, flashbacks of Vietnam and PTSD and crazy stuff like that. And I'm not saying Wart has PTSD because they don't mention that, but he definitely looks at the world differently, and he's not the same smartass that he was when he was hanging out with Wayne. Like, him and Wayne were both real smartasses and, joked around and were bully-ish. Wart's completely different. And, when he hears the term murderer, he just leaves because, that's how – because here's the thing. Ironically, that's how Army veterans were treated back then. in the Vietnam War, you know, and it's such a weird difference from today. Because today, if you're a soldier, if you serve in Iraq or Afghanistan or anywhere else that you're stationed at, today, Army veterans are treated with the respect that they deserve for fighting and defending the country. You know, they get 10% off their discounts at department stores. WWE offers them free admission to all wrestling events. They're given medals of honor. They get their own special days. People thank them every day for their service, and they're grateful to see them. During Vietnam, that was not the case. They called you things like a murderer or a baby killer, and they threw rocks at you. Because back then, you know, like, because during the Iraq War that a lot of people protested, people had this mentality that if you didn't support the war, you didn't support the troops. And a lot of people debated about, is that true? Is it true that if you don't support the war, you don't support the troops and all that stuff? And some people say, well, I always support the troops, but I'm not really proud of this war that we're in. And people are able to differentiate. And some people find that as a rational way of thinking. Now, whichever side of the fence you choose to ride on is not the issue here. The point is, back then, people who hated the war hated the troops too. In fact, I once interviewed a neighbor, I won't say his name, but he was in Vietnam. And he told me that he fought in Vietnam, he was in Vietnam, and he resented the way he was treated when he came back to the States. It made him angry. It made him frustrated. Because not only because he was fighting and defending the country, and he was watching, you know, a lot of his friends getting shot, getting wounded, some even dying around him. And he came home and he realized that, you know, people were just so against the Vietnam War that he was treated with such disrespect when all he was doing was his job, fighting for his country. And you realize when you look back on this, again, when I see this through adult eyes, I realize the difference. And when I see it, it makes me understand, not necessarily agree, but understand why people have the mentality, if you don't support the war, you don't support the troops. Because in Vietnam, that was the case. And Vietnam, and I see these Vietnam veterans get treated with the biggest form of disrespect. And, you know, and I think that out of all the soldiers who have fought in the war, I think the Vietnam people had the toughest time ever. Because not only were they fighting in a war that no one agreed with, very few people agree with the Vietnam War. You know, the Afghanistan-Iraq War, it's more 50-50 with the American people. Vietnam, it was more 80-20, and I'm being generous with that. And, you know, to watch the disrespect that gets shown is amazing to me. And you really learn about it. And I can tie that into so many other things, but I'm not going to get into that. But it really makes you look at it differently about how disrespected veterans really do get treated. You know, because not only did the Vietnam veterans have to fight a war for their country, they fought a war that nobody believed in, and very little to no people showed them any gratitude for their service. You know, and I'm not saying that Iraq or Afghanistan vets have it easy either. No, war's not easy for anybody. Let me make that clear. But at least if you served in Iraq or Afghanistan, you came home to a country that was grateful for your service. Not saying they shouldn't be. I'm just saying they weren't for Vietnam. And I learned that through this movie and through other scenes. And that's how I know. Because people are asking me, how do I know about Vietnam? I wasn't even alive for Vietnam. You're right. I wasn't. But I've watched things on it. I've watched shows on it. I've seen it through one side and through the other side and through everything. And it's crazy. You can learn about Vietnam just by watching Vietnam-related movies and shows. Like The Wonder Years that was set during Vietnam. Like Forrest Gump. Like Full Metal Jacket. And so many others. And that just amazed me. But anyway, I'm going to get off this tangent, and I'm going to play the clip from Homecoming. This is Wart sitting on the park bench and talking about how nothing seems to fit anymore.
men are children, but sometimes children are men. Maybe that's where the confusion lies. All I knew was, that night, the world seemed suddenly very big, and I felt very small. So I did what I could. Soldiers, heroes, their brothers, struggled to find their way home. The young boys watched and grew wise in their dreams.
And that scene right there, I think, was very epic. Kevin, he says he felt very small because he was, realizing I'm stealing a mascot for no reason. So he lets the mascot go, and they get in the car and take off. And, Wayne gives Ward his shirt. He starts crying, and he's like, it's okay, man. It's okay. And that's what I liked about that moment was it showed me that, that not only has Ward matured a lot, but it shows that Wayne matured a lot as well. And it showed that Wayne is a true friend. Him and Ward, they act stupid, they act crazy, but Wayne showed he was a true friend when it really mattered. And that's what a true friend does. You can laugh, you can joke, you can ball bust all you want. But when it comes to a serious moment like that, that's when you know somebody's a true friend. When they're there for you at the worst time at the worst moment of your life. And that to me was a very symbolic moment of the show. And it was a turning point in the maturity for Wayne, at least a little bit. It showed that Wayne has a little bit of, matureness in him, even though at times he'll still be the butthead. Which is a prime example in the next episode, fishing. Kevin and Wayne are taken by Jack to Berlinger Falls, a scheduled fishing hole for their final triannual weekend fishing trip and some male bonding. However, the woman at the bait shop tells them they closed the road there, and Jack's once beloved spot is now isolated and overgrown. Kevin is annoyed that Jack and Wayne still treat him like a child, joking at his expense and rebuffing his attempts at having a beer. Irked, Kevin tells his father that his lifelong dream of building a retirement cabin in the area is never going to happen. Things go from bad to worse when Wayne and Kevin start fighting, causing the old tent to go up in flames. But by the next morning, they figure out why they came here in the first place. To say goodbye to a time and place full of shared memories. They're having this final weekend, fishing trip because, and it's usually something that most dads like to do, is take their families on one last trip or their kids on one last trip because they know that as Kevin and Wayne get older, these times are going to become few and far between. They're not going to happen anymore. And the key thing is, especially when a dad has two boys, they want to have, that last male bonding time that we got before we end up going our separate ways. And the next time we do this will probably be years down the road. That's Jack's mentality in the whole entire thing. And, you know, obviously they're kind of ball busting him. They're ball busting Kevin a little bit because sometimes that's what you do. But Kevin just can't take it seriously. And I will say this, you know, Kevin wants to have a beer and Jack's being a dick about it. But I think Kevin went too far with the whole, you know, because, you know, every dad or every guy has like a dream of, I want to do this someday. You know, some people say like, you know, I want to retire and, you know, go fishing forever, or I want to go, you know, take my money and travel the world, or, you know, or some people have like, or even in Roseanne, like, you know, Dan had a dream of building this boat, and one day him and Roseanne just sailing all over the world when they were done with everything. Like every couple or dad or mom has a crazy dream like that. And sometimes it's just something they think about. They don't actually do it. Some people actually do go out and do it, or or get something that motivates them to finally do it. But, you know, in my opinion, that was where Kevin crossed the line. Like if Kevin wanted to say shut up or you guys suck or whatever, that would have been great. But to really cut his dad's nuts off like that was kind of fucked up, even for Kev. And then, of course, Wayne and Kevin start fighting. The tent goes up in flames. And I'm surprised they still talk to Kevin after that. Like that was definitely one of the most fucked up episodes I've ever seen. And it was definitely my least favorite of all the episodes in this season, or probably in this series. It was one of the least favorite ones that I enjoyed. And I noticed that with a lot of these episodes here, and I find out why this ended up ultimately being the last season, because it just stopped being interesting after a while. This show really did. And episode 3 was Scenes from a Wedding. When Candy Jensen, the daughter of Jack's boss, Arthur, is getting married, the whole family gets invited at the reception. Wayne tries to talk to Candy, but since they dated, she acts like she doesn't know him. Jack is frustrated with Arthur, has been flirting with Norma the whole night. Kevin tries to impress a girl he just met, Linda, when he says he can get champagne, and she tells him to meet him at the gazebo. In the end, he is stood up by Linda and gets drunk on the bubbly. Jack has finally had enough of Arthur's overtures and tells his boss to get his arm off his wife or he'll break it off. Finally getting to dance with Norma. After the groom's final speech, Wayne tells Kevin that the groom had waited until he got married, but the bride certainly didn't. So basically, Wayne is implying that he had sex, you know, with the bride when they were dating. And I think that's one of the main reasons why she pretended that she acted like, I have no idea who you are, because she doesn't want him all of a sudden telling stories that could piss off the groom. And that's usually why most people don't let their exes come to a party. Even if they're close friends, they're like, you're not coming because I'm not getting my ass in any trouble. Because that's just, you know, the paranoia kicking in. And I love it. And, you know, I love the fact that my favorite scene was when Jack finally turned to Arthur and said, I'm going to break your arm if you don't stop touching my wife. Like, because that right there is the worst thing. And that's why I've seen that before, where bosses act like dicks and the employees just sit there and pretend like there's not a problem until finally you have to say something. And that's really what that scene is about. It's like, you know what? Fuck this guy. So I thought that was pretty cool, because some guys just like to do that, knowing like I'm the boss and I can. It's like, really? I'll break your fucking jaw. It's like this is another one of those scenes where it was like, you know, it was an interesting story, but I will admit this episode was not very interesting, which is why I don't have any clips for it. I'll admit I wasn't really into this episode. I thought it was just like, it was stupid. It was pointless, you know, and what I don't get is why why is Kevin at a wedding, and what's with, like, he's trying to impress a girl he just met. I'm like, isn't he dating Winnie? Like, that was the problem I had with a lot of these scenes in the Wonder Years, is that there was no consistency in this. Like, if Kevin's dating Winnie should be with him at this fucking wedding. Like, why? Like, I think sometimes the writers are just so obsessed with wanting to turn Kevin into this, you know, guy who impresses everybody that they forget he has like a freaking girlfriend or something. I think the writers forgot Kevin had a girlfriend. That's literally what the issue was with this. And it was very just stupid. It's like the writers, it's like, we know this is the final season. and we're just going to phone it in. That's the feeling I got. And on that note, we got episode 4, Sex and Economics. Despite having an after-school job, Kevin's financial problems taking a toll on his life. When his young and beautiful history teacher, Miss Farmer, played by Rebecca Stab, who is a basic actress, posts an ad on the school bulletin for a painting job. He quickly accepts, thinking it's going to be easy. She informs him she will pay him $500, but he needs to paint the whole exterior of the house. Kevin realizes he has to find a crew to help him tackle this time-consuming job. So he desperately recruits Jimmy Donnelly, Joey Pinoza, and Eddie Horvath, played by Jeremy Davis. This guy's pretty good. Let's see what he's got here. He played Billy Fisher in Nell. I was just talking about that movie earlier. He was in Saving Private Ryan, Going All the Way. He was in Twister. He was in The Locusts. What else? Oh, he played Peter in Secretary. Ooh, now I remember this guy. Secretary is one of my favorites. And that's about it in terms of great movies. He's also he played Eddie Horvath in 2 episodes of The Wonder Years. He was in Dream On, General Hospital. He was in 23 episodes of Lost. He did 20 episodes of Justified. He was in Hannibal, Constantine, Texas Rising, and Lucifer. Not bad. Not a bad resume at all. Between their pay and the cost of their supplies, Kevin's cash soon disappears. He is further frustrated when the hired help suddenly quit, leaving him to finish the job alone and at a loss. He then learns that Miss Farmer sold the house to Mr. Kaplan, played by Jack McGee, who's another basic actor. And it says here, another person she manipulated, and Kevin learns his lesson, namely being taken advantage of by a pretty lady. So basically, he got scammed completely into doing a house, and it ended up being, free labor because he had to buy more paint supplies. He paid a bunch of people who walked off because they're lazy sacks of shit. And again, it's another example of Kevin being taken advantage of by a pretty lady when he still has a girlfriend, which makes no fucking sense to me at all. Again, it's another episode that was random, basic, made absolutely no sense, and contributed nothing to the ongoing storyline. This is another episode where I'm like, why is this even happening? What is going on here? Why are they continuing to do this? This is an episode where it should have been like Wayne doing this. I would like to have seen Wayne get manipulated like this. Or hell, let it be Paul, for Christ's sake. There was no reason for Kevin to be there. Yeah, I know. Kevin Arnold's the star of the show, whatever. But at least let it be Paul that gets manipulated or something like that. I thought, again, an episode that made no damn sense. And on that note, we got episode 5 here. Politics as usual. When Kevin's high school holds a debate for the McGovern-Nixon presidential race, the students don't seem to be interested until Mike Detweiler, played by Lance Guest, who is, he's pretty much another basic actor. It says here, a charismatic speaker heading Senator George McGovern's local campaign gets everyone's attention with his anti-establishment view. Winnie enthusiastically, about time Winnie shows up, Winnie enthusiastically joins the McGovern campaign committee, but Kevin is unconvinced, believing that Mike has a romantic interest in her. Suspicious, he breaks into the campaign headquarters late at night to catch them together, but it turns out to be a meeting with McGovern himself. The next day, seeing the early promise returns, Kevin goes to celebrate with the team, but it was premature as Nixon soon wins convincingly. He arrives to find Winnie upset and Mike leaving with his assistant Peggy. It seems he wasn't interested in Winnie at all, just wanting to harness her enthusiasm to encourage young people to become more politically motivated. Kevin states that from that point on, Winnie would remain a liberal. So basically, Winnie became a Democrat when she found out that the guy that he was talking to wasn't attracted to her. So basically, it's another example of Winnie being tempted and Kevin having to sit there and go, what the fuck? So again, makes no goddamn sense to me. Last time I checked, it's supposed to be a couple. Like, this scene at least made some little bit of sense. Because Kevin's there being suspicious when the guy's like, look, dude, I don't want to date your dog. I don't want to date your girlfriend. I just want her to help me get, votes for McGovern. And it is kind of funny that Winnie would switch to being a Democrat by being that pissed off over it. And that's just an example of women getting pissed off to the highest degree. And it's very, very funny. So this episode I sort of enjoyed, but not really. And on that note, we move on to episode 6, which is White Lies. Kevin is feeling pressure from the guys in the locker room to reveal intimate details of him and Winnie, since they have been going out for 6 years, on and off. Kevin plans to be alone with Winnie when his parents take a trip out of town for one night, so he asks her over to study for the SATs. Surprisingly, she agrees, and even though Kevin creates a dark and romantic atmosphere, Winnie still wants to study, but finally figures out Kevin's intent. Despite his attempt at intimacy, they end up doing what they always do, reminiscing about their past. They end up falling asleep together on the couch, and Kevin panics the next morning. After Winnie tells her parents where she was all night and how much they trust him, Kevin feels frustrated. The guys catch wind of his mood, and Kevin tells them to use their imagination. By lunchtime, the cafeteria is ablaze with gossip, publicly shaming Winnie. Later, Kevin goes to Winnie's house to apologize, but Winnie cannot see how to fix the unfixable. But Kevin is left alone to ponder how readily he hurt the person most important to him and trying to impress those that aren't. And, so obviously this is the classic case of, now the best way I can describe this is it's kind of like, it's like in Beverly Hills 90210, the whole thing with David and Donna. David obviously the whole time wanting to have sex with Donna, but Donna being very adamant about not wanting to have sex. Basically, it wasn't until I think the beginning or the end of the 7th season that Donna finally decided, okay, we've waited long enough. Let's do this. You've earned it. And they finally do have sex. And, and that's when because Donna for a long time was the only one that managed to maintain her virginity while Kelly and Brenda and all the other females in the Beverly Hills Beverly Hills show were fucking everybody. Well, it seemed, or maybe not necessarily everybody, but it looked that way. Anyway, with the whole White Lies thing, obviously, because nothing makes a guy more frustrated because he's like, yeah, they trust you because they know you're not gonna do anything. Because it's weird because Kevin should be like, okay, her parents trust me, it's a good thing, but instead his ego can't take it. He's like, what, you saying I can't have sex with her? You saying I can't get the job done? And, as a teenager, that's going to frustrate the hell out of you. Especially when, there's nothing worse than being in a relationship where you want to have sex and the other person doesn't. It can frustrate the crap out of you. So, obviously, Kevin just gets mad because, he has that egotistical feeling where you don't want guys to know that you're a virgin. And because in high school and everything, guys, especially guys, girls don't really give a shit, but guys jump on that shit. Like if you're by a certain age, if you're still a virgin, they look at you like, are you out of your fucking mind? And I know because I had that shit was thrown upon me. I didn't lose my virginity until I was 20. So before that time, I had dealt with that whole thing. And of course, if you make up enough stories, guys will believe it. Some guys don't. But Kevin, as you can tell from the fact that he's narrating this, with the present day Kevin Hart narrating, you can tell that Kevin had a knack for manipulating people and making them believe what he's saying. He had the ability to inspire stupid people. And the guys he went to school with were just as dumb as he was. But of course, Winnie is now, but in the process, Kevin does end up hurting Winnie, which was never his intention, and now is stuck in this awkward situation. But so now Kevin has to deal with the fact that Winnie doesn't want to see him anymore, which moves us into the next episode, which is interestingly titled Wayne and Bonnie. Wayne begins dating Bonnie Douglas, played by Paula Marshall. Yeah, pretty much another basic actress. Don't see anything special that she's done. An older woman he met at work. Over dinner, the family finds out she's 23, divorced, and has a 6-month-old son named David. Norma invites them to the Norcom family picnic and learns that Wayne is serious about their relationship. So much so, he decides to move in with Bonnie and help her take care of David. Meanwhile, still upset over Winnie not being in his life for the past few weeks, Kevin tries to get her back by buying a gift. But when he goes to her house with a huge teddy bear, Winnie has a study date with a classmate. Later, seeing them at the diner together, Kevin feels lonely and meets a new girl named Cindy, who just moved into town. He invites her to the picnic only to find out her immature behavior is due to the fact that she's only in the 7th grade and winds up just giving her the big bear in his trunk. With all this stuff happening to his family, Kevin needs someone to talk to. So he turns to Winnie, who in return now seems willing to give him another chance. So Kevin basically, he apologizes to Winnie. Winnie accepts him. She takes him back. And now everything seems to be, right as rain again, at least in the weird, bizarre world that this group happens to live in, or that happens to live in. And of course, it is great. It is interesting to see Wayne, being attracted to somebody and dating a single mom. But, at the same time, Wayne is so blinded by love, though, that he doesn't understand that there's a lot of stress in dating a single mom. I know because I used to date a single mom. It was nuts. But anyway, the point is, what's interesting about this episode is the fact that, Kevin does struggle to, deal with the fact that he still has feelings for Winnie, finds out that this girl that he's, he meets a girl, finds out he's younger than her, and decides, I'm not going to mess with that, and just gives her a big teddy bear, since Winnie obviously didn't want it. And, it's another classic case of Kevin struggling with his feelings and finally able to letting Winnie, give him another chance. Because, because obviously, Kevin makes a lot of mistakes. He does a lot of dumb things. But you find out that most of the mistakes that Kevin makes, he does out of anger. He doesn't think things through. And, eventually, once he gets the time to rationalize, he does realize what he does is wrong. It's not like he lives in a world where he's always right. Because there's some guys who do live in that world, and they're the ones who end up, messing up their lives for the most part. And then we move on to the next episode. This one was one of my favorites in the season. Kevin delivers. With his 2 nights a week Chinese food delivery job at Sean's restaurant, Kevin has difficulty making time to meet with Winnie, particularly as his high-strung boss, Mr. Chong, played by Michael Paul Chan, who's another basic actress, who does have some decent roles. In fact, he plays a Wayne Enterprise executive in Batman Forever and Dr. Lee in Batman and Robin. So he also was in U.S. Marshals, which is also pretty cool. And, let me see, is always on his back. Every night had its pitfalls and perils, from scary houses and scary customers and yapping dogs to practical jokes with Fiona's pizza delivery man delivering to a dead person at a funeral home and having his car impounded. He also has regular customers, especially Mrs. Tambora, a lonely lady who always wants Kevin to stay and chat. But it's not all bad, particularly when a hippie stoner gives him a $20 tip, or when Kevin decides to repaint the pizza delivery guy into delivering to Mrs. Tambora. Throughout the night, he often contacts Winnie by phone, but one night, she breaks their dates. Then his boss informs him of one last delivery to 216 Maple, which ends up being a local park. But to his surprise, it was ordered by Winnie, who shows up for a late dinner date in the park. And, of course, this is definitely one of the most interesting episodes, and I picked 2 clips from Kevin Delivers because I remember them the most. And this is basically Kevin the first clip here is basically Kevin talking about his delivery struggles.
And with those words of encouragement, I was back on the road, ready for anything. ready to deal with strange characters. Very strange characters. Mr. Kramer? You're looking for Mr. Kramer? Yeah, he ordered some food from John's Chinese. I very much doubt it. No, I have a slip right here. Look, will you just let me talk to the guy? My boss will get mad if I don't deliver this food. That's weird. Like I said, sometimes you just had to get tough. Not take no for an answer. Here we are. Mr. Kramer, it was a delivery boy's worst nightmare. The ultimate practical joke. And there you had it. Delivering Chinese food wasn't just a job. It wasn't just an occupation. Hey, you got any egg rolls? In its own way, it was war.
And indeed, a war it was. Because we definitely got to see here the craziness of the whole thing. Of course, like I said, later Kevin gets him back, and by having him go to Mrs. Tambora. But I remember that scene just because I remember the singing, the music, and everything. And I picked that particular scene because it just stood out to me from when I used to say I used to watch The Wonder Years as a kid, but I only saw a couple episodes that I can recall. And I have another scene from Kevin Delivers, and this is the 216 Maple. And the reason is because this is one of the scenes I remember the most from The Wonder Years. When I think back as a kid, this stands out to me the most. So I'm glad I get to play it for you guys right now.
What? More? That's young toy. 216 Maple. But it's 10 o'clock. The restaurant's closed. Idea. 216 Maple. But enough was enough. No more. No way, no how. My day's over. Now, I have my rights. I'm not a slave. All right. If that's how you feel about it. I wasn't just standing up for myself. I was standing up for oppressed workers everywhere. The downtrodden, the disadvantaged. The totally without guts. One more. That's it. 216 Maple. 216 Maple. What the hey? After a night like this, what else did I have to do? 216 Maple. Which in this case turned out to be a deserted park. I don't believe this. And to add pepperoni to insult? I don't know. Maybe it was my destiny to end up on a lonely street in a dead-end job with no one to share my sorrows with but Vinny.
Hi. Did you get a message?
This is your order?
I knew it was the only way to make it to see you tonight. So are we still on for dinner?
The night has come and the land is dark.
You got it.
And the moon, and there you have it.
This is nice.
Yeah. Working for Mr. Chong certainly wasn't the best job I ever had. The hours were long, the money was poor, and employee management relations left a lot to be desired. But in its way, each night held the promise of riches and adventure.
You want some champagne?
Nothing. I'm kind of sick of Chinese.
Maybe we could order some pizza.
You know, after that, Kevin was like, I'll take the Chinese food. The last thing Kevin wants to do is order a pizza after the shit he went through with the pizza delivery guy. But I love that scene because, of course, you know, it's the 216 Maple. Kevin doesn't want to do this. And to me, it's probably the coolest thing, one of the coolest things I've seen a girlfriend do for a guy. It's like, look, I have a hard time seeing, it's like, look, you know, her mentality is like, look, my boyfriend's working. He's doing all this stuff. He wants to spend time with me, but he's got to make that money. Now, some women are respectful of that. Some women aren't. The ones who aren't, you got to get rid of in our nanosecond. But the ones who are, that's the relationships that stick together. And Winnie knew a way to buck the system. I'll order some Chinese food. And I'm sure that, you know, I'm sure Winnie, I don't know if Winnie's going to pay for the Chinese food or if Kevin's going to dock it from his paycheck or whatever. But I don't know how that money situation is going to work. But one thing is certain, Winnie had a genius idea. So there they are, sitting in the park, you know, having dinner, getting to spend some time together. And the best part is it's 10 o'clock and Kevin's shift is over. So the only thing he really has to do is get the money back to the restaurant and then he's done for the day. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll find some other way to work around that. I don't know. But one thing is certain. I love the fact that Winnie did that at the end. I'm like, that's a cool girl. That's a cool girlfriend right there. You know? He's like, and I thought it was a genius idea. It was a great twist because it looked like the pizza guy was pranking him again, but instead it was Winnie. And it's a great moment, you know, and that's one of those things that makes you think that, you know, Kevin and Winnie is a relationship that is going to go the distance. And on that note, we'll move on to the next episode here. And with the time I got left, this might be the last one I can talk about for today, but don't worry. I'll finish season 6 of The Wonder Years tomorrow since Desmond will not be in. I have free time to finish it since he won't be there. And this next episode is The Test. Kevin and his friends deal with the stress of preparing for the SATs and contemplate their futures. Unfortunately, Paul is not helpful, particularly when he starts to panic and begins to focus on how the test will predetermine the rest of his life. And Kevin's procrastinating while watching Let's Make a Deal does not help either. Meanwhile, after Jack gets a competent annual review at Norcom, saying he's okay at performing his job, he decided in 20 years he's had enough and seeks to leave the company. Jack talks about how an ex-Norcom coworker of his, Charlie, is looking to buy a furniture company, but fails to tell Norma that he wants to join the venture too. After bumping into Charlie at an ice creamery, the truth comes out, and Jack then meets with the owners of the factory and family. With Norma's support, and finally with Norma's support, seals the deal. Empowered by Jack's example of taking a risk, Kevin takes his SATs, knowing that he won't let his life be dictated only by the results. And by the time I got left, I have just enough time to play the 2 clips from the test. Here's the first one. Check it out.
Confidence. What the hell does confident mean?
Probably means you did a good job, Jack.
For my father, the crisis was his annual evaluation from Norcom. You know how many weekends I put in there? You know how hard I work? Which isn't to say the old man wasn't graceful at taking constructive criticism.
You look, honey. That's excellent right here.
Yeah. But demeanor and appearance means the guy liked my haircut.
Honey, they probably didn't even give it much thought. You know how much they appreciate you there.
The hell they do. Still, in my own way, I kind of sympathized with the guy. After all, this was really none of my business. This was Dad, the great provider, the man with the plan. Solly Barrett got a bad evaluation, too.
Jack, you did not get a bad evaluation.
Well, he decided to leave Norcom.
Charlie? You're kidding.
Nope. You know this guy who owns a small furniture factory wants to retire? He's going to buy him out. I don't know. Maybe he's got the right idea. But if Dad was looking for advice, he was pretty much on his own. 20 years at Norcom, Norman. What have I been doing with my life? Face it, when it came to philosophy, my family had one golden rule. It was every man for himself.
So obviously, Jack was not happy about his review. But the cool part is I have the next clip, which talks about the ending. And I think I'll elaborate more on this episode at the top of tomorrow's show. But in what might seem like the conclusion of today's show, here's the ending to that episode.
Hey, kids. How you doing? Everything okay? Yes, what are you doing here? Maybe you'd like to go for a ride? What do you say? Come on, I have my car over there, so you just get it later. Come on. And the way he said it? Okay. Yes, I knew I didn't really have a choice. Kevin, there's some things I want to talk to you about. The funny thing was, I pretty much knew what was coming. You know, sometimes it's not easy being the head of a family. Sometimes you have to make choices that affect everybody. Sure, you did the right thing. Glad to hear you say that. I understood what he meant. After all, in this world there were two kinds of men. The ones with guts, the ones who dared, the ones who took risks. And then there were the Arnolds. Here we are. What is this? My new company. Once the deal closes. Come on. Let's take a look. Here we go. Everybody's already knocked off for the day. It's usually really hopping in here. Look at that. Come on, I'll show you around. Look at that. It's great. I guess life is full of surprises, no matter what age you are. I didn't know you knew anything about furniture, Dad. I don't. I'm ready to learn. Got a great crew here. What about Norcom? Figured your mom was right. Time to take a chance. Norcom was killing me. So I left. What did they say? They said goodbye. Dad, aren't you scared? Nah. Yeah. Come on. I want to show you where my office is. That afternoon, Dad and I took the tour. We talked furniture, we talked life. We made plans. And the next morning, at 8 a.m., 78 students gathered in the McKinley cafeteria to take what was supposed to be the most important test of their lives. Everyone had a different way of coping that day. Some were more effective than others. Before you begin, for all the risks and choices, I was one step ahead of them. When you have finished a section, do not, I repeat, do not turn ahead. Okay, now, open your pen.
And that right there is a great ending. And what I like about it is that it teaches people, about going after risks. And, it shows the misery that Jack's dad was going through, And what's interesting is that, Charlie makes a decision, Jack makes the decision. So you know what? I got to leave Norcon when he got the competent results and realizing that, all the work I'm doing here and they're not appreciating me. So he finally decides after so many years, fuck this place, I want to leave. I have no desire to be here anymore. And he gets the opportunity to, run his own furniture company and be his own businessman. And a lot of guys, that is their goal. Not necessarily to own a furniture business, but to own their own business. I know my dad had those dreams and aspirations. And, he's the GM of a hotel, which is close. And, in fact, my dad actually told me an interesting story. There's a Villa Christina Hyatt Hotel on Peachtree, Dunwoody. My father used to run that hotel for the year that he came back to Georgia. He was home for an entire year. He worked at the Villa Christina. It was owned by this guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But he ran that. It used to be a restaurant, and the hotel was connected to the restaurant. And this man owned this restaurant, loved this restaurant, took good care of this restaurant. And the owner said that his biggest fear was that the hotel attached to this restaurant, that he would lose everything. Because that's the biggest fear you have. That's why, if you bring in like a CEO or a consultant or somebody into your company or into your business, your biggest fear is they're going to take over and it's going to become their vision and not yours. It's a common thing I've seen. Like the best example is the Jeff Foxworthy show. Jeff Foxworthy had a sitcom back in the day. And the sitcom didn't do well because it was the producer's vision and not Jeff's. And that's the worst thing. When people say, this is who you are, this is who you're going to be, instead of letting the person be themselves. We're going to drop this image and give you this. And people get disappointed because they love what they saw. It's why when Dice did a sitcom called Bless This House, it didn't take off. They wanted to drop the Dice image. They wouldn't let him be Dice. Obviously, Dice has the ability to be Dice without cursing, cussing, and swearing. He knows he's got to be clean for TV, and he is clean whenever he does TV. When he does like pay-per-views and things like that, he'll get in a little bit of trouble, except when he got banned for life by MTV. But aside from that, he can be pretty clean when he has to be. But you have to let him keep the image regardless. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And, and when the guy took over, my dad, when they were taking over the hotel, my dad sat down with the guy, talked with the guy, and said, look, when it comes to the restaurant, we're going to be partners in this. I don't want to mess with anything that you're doing. There will be some changes that are going to have to be made because it's going to connect to the hotel. But I promise you, your business will be your business. And my father made an effort to make sure that man's vision and his dream was not compromised. And if it was, they were small compromises. They were small compromises that they both agreed on. They agreed on compromises, and the restaurant became successful. The hotel is successful. And when my dad left for California, he sat down with the new GM, the guy who was going to take my dad's place, my father's successor, who was going to take over this hotel while my dad went to California. He sat down with the guy and he said, look, this is the deal. This is this man. You treat this man with respect. You respect his restaurant, you respect his place of business, and you work together. Do not fuck with his image. Well, he didn't say fuck with his image, but that's what my father wanted to say. He said it in a more professional manner, but he sat the guy down and let him know, this is what I've been doing. This is how we run things. And you better behave and help this guy. And so far, from what my dad has told me, the guy has done just that. And anyway, I thought that'd be an interesting story. And that's a testament to how serious my dad takes about running his own business. And I'm glad that Jack is getting to run his. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will wrap up this episode of the Boochcast for today. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in live. I want to thank everybody listening in the archives. I'll be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. West Coast time with another fun-filled, action-packed episode of the Boochcast. I'll be finishing my recap of the Wonder Years as well as recapping TNA Impact Wrestling. So until next time, this is Vinny Bucci, a.k.a. The Booch, saying keep on living life and take care. This has been the Boochcast. Talk to you guys tomorrow right here on Blog Talk Radio and YouTube.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
All right, and before I officially sign off of YouTube, I'd like to remind you guys you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, Booch316. That's right, hit the subscribe button. And you can check out all past episodes of the Boochcast. You can also check out some of my other great videos I have. You can check out my stand-up, which consists of me performing at the Atlanta Comedy Theater, the Punchline, as well as the Comedy Catch in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And also you can see my one-man show, Marta Mia, coming out soon. Well, actually, no, it's already on there. Sorry, it's not coming out soon. It's been out for 5 years. You can check that out, parts 1 and 2. You know, make sure you watch them both, otherwise you'll get confused about the show. So make sure it's part 1 and 2. Then after that, you can check out my appearance at Pro Wrestling School, where I trained at the Underground School of Pro Wrestling. And you can check out the skit that I did with my good friend Jerry Truman, where we were Barack Obama and Joe Biden playing a rousing game of poker. Check it out here on the Boochcast, Booch YouTube channel for Booch316. And also, you'll be able to check out future episodes of the Boochcast as well. So, like I said, this is going to wrap up the show for today. I will see you guys tomorrow. Until then, pizza, baby.